Imagine Alice Cooper with about 1/100th the money.
If the Cramps had been a heavy metal band.
Crazy as H, blood-splattered, ear-splitting hilarity.
The Wizard of Oz meets splatter horror films.
The gag is, you're in the splash zone.
You're covered with goo and blood, and if you're not completely soaked, you didn't have a haunted garage show.
It's like going to a horror movie, except it's actually happening.
It's basically walking into the most brutal, gory film right in front of your face.
It was probably the best part of my life.
I think of him as a guy with commitment to his art.
That's Dookie. I mean, he wants to take it as far as he can take it.
You gotta see this band.
Wait a minute, are you gonna get this?
Oh, thank you.
Hello, it's me, Kevin Vonesper, and if you're watching, you have found the GWARPod. Yes, I have been working a lot on the documentary The Life and Slimes of Dookie Flyswatter and Haunted Garage. That's my main focus right now, and I'm finding a lot of great stuff. I'm talking to some great people. Stay excited. This is going to be it's going to be the best thing I've ever done in my life. And, but is anybody going to see GWAR on the next tour? I will be there. What is it? Next Friday? I think it's the first day of the tour I believe it's called the Webster in Connecticut. I will be there with my camera. If anyone's there, let me take a picture of you pre and post blood splatter. That would be, I love those contrasts. It's always great photos. Hello, everybody. Today, it's Neon Charlie. Yes, if you are the fan of the nitty-gritty details of the dim times of GWAR and their origins in the dairy, you have come to the right place. So let's get this show started, shall we?
GWARPod comes from on GWARPod. 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 GWARPod.
Hello, Neon Charlie.
Hey, man.
How's it going?
Just fine.
Oh, let me put the crawl on. So are you living in Virginia, still living in Richmond right now?
Yeah, in Stratford Hills, south side.
I don't really know the geography. Where is that in comparison to Richmond?
It's right at the end of Carey Street where the Huguenot Bridge is.
Okay.
It's a real nice 1940s neighborhood.
Nice.
My friend Marilee owns a house, and I help her take care of it.
Nice. And were you always in Richmond, or did you start off somewhere else?
I got paroled to Richmond after pulling 4 years in the pen, and I had to go to Rubicon drug program as part of my probation for 3 years after I pulled the 4 years. And I started going to VCU.
Okay.
I have an extremely high IQ, and when I got out of the pen, I started going to school. I became a gold and silversmith. I got into neon. When they kicked me out of VCU, they had a fuck up in registration, and since I was an ex-con, the dean of student life wanted me out of the school, so they kicked me out. So I got a lawyer. When I found out they fucked up, they gave me a registration of Jeske, not Jeske. And he jumped on that and kicked me out of school.
Oh,
and I got back all my money. And I fucked off for a couple years and dealt weed. And got hooked up with Russell Clem of T-Shirt City. He owned one of the buildings across from Lombardy Market on Lombardy Street in Richmond. And he had a jewelry company and a T-shirt company. And I walked up and introduced myself and told him I did gold and silversmithing, so he hired me as a jeweler. And when I first started going to VCU and taking jewelry, I found out who the best jeweler in town was, which was Camburian Jewelry. And I became friends with the owner. Got the gift of gab. And
No
he
kidding.
started, he allowed me to go upstairs and work in the shop here and there so I could learn shit. Because he planned on hiring me. But the whole family got together and said, since I wasn't a family member, they wouldn't send me to gemology school for 4 years in Switzerland.
Do you need that kind of degree to do that kind of work?
Oh, I was really good. I'm gifted. I made my own sheet metal. I still can.
Yeah, but are you supposed to have a degree to make gems? I don't know anything about that industry.
Yes, you do. You do. That's why I had to go to gemology class. I could make cabochons like in this ring right here.
Mm-hmm.
That's a carnelian.
Right. Did you make that one?
Oh, no, I bought this. It's real nice stainless steel. I like it. It's good brass knuckle, too.
Yeah, nice. And it's got that GWAR blood red you were saying.
About. What's that?
It's got that GWAR blood red you were telling me about.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I fell in love with it as soon as I saw it.
Yeah.
This right here is a 1870 Belgian penny. It's a custom-made ring. One of my customers she had a tea shop here in Richmond, and I was friends with her ex-husband, who's a big-time pot dealer in New York. But he moved down here with his wealth and bought 17 houses. First 2 years he was here. But he's passed away now. But I used to work for him. And I installed bars on the second floor in the back of her building because you could get access to it real easily. And she had the ring made for me besides paying me for building the iron bars up for her back of her building.
Nice.
I've got about 7 or 8 trades I'm real good at. Machinist, welder, soldering stuff. I'm the king of soldering. I worked for a historical metal company.
I got some guitars you can fix if you want.
Hey, no problem, man. I'm extremely gifted at what I do and clean.
Sweet.
I do excellent work. I'm a surgeon at it.
It's the opposite of me. I just know how to destroy them. I don't know how to fix them.
I remember hanging out with Brocky and everybody and always talking about knives. So I learned how to make knives.
Oh,
and I got to be really gifted at it. No.
So yeah, wait, let's lead into this. Like, I know you're kind of like have a big what do I say, role in the formation of what the dairy became, right? Like, was this around that time? And did you know Dave before that, or how did that all happen?
Russell and Lenny were looking to Lenny Lancaster was I sent you a picture, Lenny, the guy with the giant margarita.
Okay.
That was the original Oregon Hill redneck.
Okay.
But
find it.
I was friends with him and Russell. And I met him through Russell Clem.
No, okay.
And
Not Russ Paharsky.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Russell was a short American Indian. I can't remember what kind of tribe he's from, but he had kept his hair in braids. That's Lenny.
All right, gotcha.
And Lenny and all his biker buddies were all Vietnam vets. And Lenny is a really gifted builder and a mean son of a bitch, too. He had 4 or 5 different belts in martial arts. And he was a Vietnam badass. So was Zip. Zip, when he first went to Vietnam, was about 1965, 66. And he tried to hide out, and they put him in hell. the powers that be, and he was an evil son of a bitch. But when I met him and Lenny, they invited me to move into the dairy and help take care of stuff.
So what was the state of the dairy at that time? Like, what was it?
Pat Ward was this genius that used to be in business with Russell and Lenny, and they had a sound business, and they custom made. Lenny would build speaker horns, I mean monster sized ones, and Pat Ward would do the technology and the hard and the software for it. Basically, if you want to call it software back in the day then. And Russell was part of helping with the business and getting gigs and stuff, because Pat invented a portable power source for sound systems at concerts.
Okay.
And he ended up fucking Lenny and Russell over badly on some of the contract riches. So they had a falling out and didn't like each other. So later at that time, Pat Ward rented the whole dairy building. And he had it rigged. He could hear a flea fart outside. And he had an alarm system. The guy was a super genius. He had laser labs up in there. I'll tell you about that in a minute.
Sure.
And Russell and Lenny said, okay, Charlie, this is the deal. Lenny wants to kill Pat anyway. And Lenny was a known badass. Lenny or Zip, if they were fighting 5 people, leave them alone. If there's a 6th person, help him out with that guy. And I saw Lenny beat up 3 guys at one time, right in front of me. And I'll tell you more story anyway.
Yeah.
But I got to be really good friends with Lenny, and they liked the fact I did neon work. And I was real good at handwork, like finishing antiques and shit like that, because I worked for an antiques dealer for a while and learned that trade. In 3 years, I worked for him before the dairy, long before the dairy.
Mm-hmm.
And I became a buyer for him because I got a really fantastic eye for antiques, and I know my shit when it comes to history. So I would buy a lot of shit for Cecil that he would triple his money on. And he gave me a free studio for 3 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Brocky always knew me as having an immense warehouse-size collection of crap. But most of it was all good stuff, because in later years, I sold off a lot of it as the weight of the metal. And I found machinists to buy all the machinery I got. I used to collect machinery when it would be thrown away from my shop, and I'd fix it and then sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked for a guy, Noel Dempsey, at Dempsey Machine. And when Noel bought one of the city corners in Scott's Addition, which is an industrial area, and I lived there in across from Noel's property for 15 years in these 2 offices. And I had it fixed up so you couldn't tell I lived there. I'd roll up my bedroll and stick it in a cabinet, and I kept the place looking like I always worked there. And one night, even, this is long after the dairy. I'll get back to the dairy in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk more about this, but let's get back to the dairy. So
Sure.
Anyway,
and what year are we at right now in the dairy?
Out 1981, 82. No, it was after 82, because that's when I lost my finger. That was just prior to the dairy. And Russell came to me and said, here's your key. Pat's supposed to be out of the building already. And man, he had to fucking get a shitload of people, because there was a junkyard behind the dairy, fenced in, that had semi-trailers that were all rigged up for sound and burglar alarms. And Pat had those full of fucking treasure. Lasers. He would buy government surplus up the wazoo because Pat was pretty wealthy from screwing Lenny and Russ and other folks too. So I went over there with my girlfriend, Ellen, and to show her the dairy. And we started going through the place. And I had a friend of mine who was a gun-toting fool. He had a 357 and a 25 automatic on him. And I'm not supposed to have a gun, but anyway, he handed me the 25. We went right in the building because we didn't know what the fuck we were walking in on. And Pat Ward shows up and said, "Give me the keys, get the fuck out of here." And he had a couple guys with him. And I was like, well, fuck you, motherfucker. Get the fuck out of my face. I'm calling Lenny. And I did call Lenny. And Pat got the fuck out of there before Lenny showed up because Lenny would have beat him to death. And I knew Lenny that quick right away because I was a pot dealer, and so was Lenny at that time. And Russell loved the fact I was honest. I kept on top of things. Anyway, we all moved in. I moved in the dairy. Dr. John Sundin, he was a medical student at the time, took over the top of the milk bottle and renovated it. Got gas working up in there because it was an office. It had its own bathroom. We fixed and got all the bathrooms functioning that we could, and that was about every single one. And the whole building used a unisex the milk bottle bathroom for the employees, and it was pimped out. It was all tile and stuff like that. And we cleaned it up, put in a new water heater, got everything running that way. I scrubbed the place down. I'm real good about that because I got hepatitis C at one time and got sick and almost died of it.
That's a big area to clean, huh?
What's that?
That's a big area to clean.
Oh,
right?
It was
pretty big
man.
inside.
Oh yeah, I hired a bunch of guys to help me.
Yeah, okay.
Black guys that I worked with at Tally because I was their pot dealer. I just traded them pot for coming over, and they were janitors too.
That works.
So they were cool as fuck. They liked the fact I was from Chicago. And when I was at Tally and I took over the pattern room, because the guy who was running it wanted to go to another company because he was having insurance problems with the owner of Tally. And this young guy wanted to take over a shop in another company that was going to pay him pimp salary, which he did, but they trained me how to do everything. And the guys in the pattern room would draw signs and design them for the old guys. Grandpa Ramsey, Gene Lee were the metalsmiths, and a couple of Vietnamese guys that we became really best friends when I worked there with them for all these years. And Mr. Rudd told me the guys in the pattern would draw neon their way. But I said, okay, why don't you teach me how to do it your way? And the guys in the pattern they were teaching me got pissed off as shit. But I was like, fuck you. I'm taking you, I'm hired to work here now. So fuck you. And that's the only time I ever cursed at them. And they left me alone after that and kept teaching me. So anytime we got any designs in and I'd start doing the physical drawings, I'd call in Mr. Rudd and Gene Lee and Grandpa Ramsey, and I said, how do you want me to do this? And they'd always they ate it up. And we became really good friends too. And they always stuck up for me. And I worked my fucking ass off because after being locked up for all those fucking years, I wanted to accomplish. So I also had a company of my own on the side. Oh yeah, back to the dairy.
Mm-hmm.
The dairy was full of all these cabinets that were like a clock cabinet, but there were like 42 of them all over the building. So I went and talked to the owner of the building after I moved in, and we had to strip the building, the city code. We had to take down a lot of wiring and shit like that. So Lenny got all these old biker friends of his and Vietnam vets, fucking about 20 of them. And we raided the fucking building and stripped it clean and got it all and boxed up all the electrical outlets. I'd make the box covers at Tally in the metal room. And the Vietnamese guys helped me too. And they taught me how to bend metal because I used to bug all the old guys at Tally because I didn't know shit to teach me everything they knew. And they said, okay, we're going to teach you for the first 2 years you're here. But after that, you got to leave us alone at lunch and break time. And after they taught me, I fucking bugged the living shit out of them. Then when Gene Lee died, he left me all his tools. God bless him. He was a good guy. And I learned how to sandblast artwork into glass. I taught myself how to do it once I found out it existed. And we started doing it at Tally a lot more after I learned how to do it. And I sandblast my shit in the sandblasting room at Tally. I got free reign of that. And I made all the old guys shaving mirrors with their name and all the tools they used around it. Mr. Rudd had tipping torches and lightning bolts. Gene Lee had snips and files and soldering irons, and so did Grandpa Ramsey. So, because it was Christmas one year, and I cursed at all of them and said, "Get out of here. We need to fucking talk, you motherfuckers." I said, "Your old asses need to understand." And then I picked up their boxes and handed them their presents. And they freaked out. So anyway, and I did that for Lenny. I did a lot of sandblasting for him. There's a house here in Richmond, 2318 Grace Street. It's got a Mooka girl, the one that has a big joint in her hand or a big cigarette in her hand, except she has a fan in her hand. And it's, my God, it took me 2 days to cut that piece. But it's beautiful, beautiful piece of art. So I did that for a long time too. I did that at the dairy because Russell bought a house across from Lenny. Lenny was 428. Russell was 421. And I asked Russell when I was doing transom for Lenny's new house he just built. He renovated a derelict into a real nice southern two-story. He's from Phoenix, Arizona. His dad was the engineer that put up the St. Louis Arch. Bingo Lancaster.
Wow.
That's a legend too. And he worked on the High Aswan Dam and shit like that. Lenny came from some seriously good people, like my dad. And Lenny liked the fact I was so good at drafting because I do drawings for Lenny for free because we were pals. And funny as shit, I had run-ins with some black guy at the dairy that almost got me fired halfway, but the owner found out it was bullshit, so that they ignored what happened. So the black guy is in Safeway, and all of a sudden Lenny and Zip show up on both sides of him and picked him up by his neck and told him to never fuck with me again, stay far away from me. And They said, "We want you anyway, you motherfucker." And they put him down. And he came to see me, asked me what it was about, and I told him the truth. And he never fucked with me ever again. But he still stayed at the dairy because he paid his rent.
Okay, right. Yeah, so when did lead me up to people renting into the dairy?
Russell announced to a lot of the artists and people that we knew, and I mentioned to a lot of people immediately at Rockets or the Generator. I can't remember what it's called at that time. And I spread the word around, and people started showing up. And Russell knew a lot of people through the T-shirt business. And I had a pretty large say-so on who got in. And I met a bunch of people. Hunter was one of the first people in.
I was going to ask, like, who are the first people? Hunter's one of them?
Him and Chuck. And they were cool as shit.
Yeah.
And Hunter started building stuff immediately and setting up everything. And I was into his energy, and I had my own company on the side. And I was selling weed to a new customer at another sign company. And he was like, I want a mirror for my dad. So I did him a beautiful one with shotguns on it and liquor bottles. And he said, "Come on in the back of my shop." And there was a 2-foot double-sided metal brake that was fucking fantastic. And I learned how to manipulate it to do different kinds of bends. And I built all kinds of shit. And the janitor at Tally was one of the Silver Stars gospel group, Eugene Beard. And Eugene liked the fact I was cool. I was always really nice to him. I buy him chicken all the time from the chicken joint across the street from Tally. And we became good friends. And he, on Saturdays, would dedicate songs to me that they'd sing. And I'd play the radio because I'd work 7 days a week at Tally. And I had a cot there too, so I didn't have to stay overnight. So I could stay there overnight.
Right.
And Mr. Rudd had this monster Belgian shepherd named Crusher. And I'm the dog whisperer. So when I first got there and he told me to stay away from the dog, I'd go up there and give him bacon. And he'd lean against the fence and I'd scratch his butt and stick my fingers through, even after I lost it. And the dog loves me to death. So Mr. Rudd caught me heads up feeding him. And he said, "God damn it." He said, "I'm going to teach you a lesson." So he opened the gate. The dog ran up and leaned against me. Mr. Rudd, he couldn't get him to fucking bite me. So Mr. Rudd was cool with that because at night, a lot of times I'd stay there and the dog had somebody to hang out with. And I could sick him on people too. But I never did.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. But he was a foul fucking dog. Probably weighed 140 pounds. And he loved the fact I brushed him. I give him baths. So had an air-conditioned doghouse and heated in the winter too. So that was cool. I was always kind to him. Guar had a Rottweiler named, what was his name? Wolfgang.
Oh, yeah.
And when they were out of town, somebody hit Wolfgang over the head and cut his head trying to get in the yard. So I bandaged up his head. He let me too, because I would go over there as soon as they left. And well, I got to be friends with Wolfgang. And I'd feed him French fries all the time. And once a day at least. And I climb over the fence and play with him. And I healed his head. I went to a vet and got medication. And it healed up really nicely.
They lived at the dairy?
No, this was that next door to Tally. But let's get back to the dairy.
Yeah.
But
We're jumping
anyway,
around a little bit.
what's that?
We're jumping around a little bit. Yeah.
If you'll have to excuse me, I smoke some
Yeah.
weed. But
Of course.
anyway, Hunter got in there. Terry K. Lindsay was another. I can't remember the name. Future Neighbors, I think, was their group. And Death Piggy and groups like a bunch of groups like that, and Dirtball too. But we had problems with Dirtball. Excuse me for mentioning this.
Yeah,
but and they got kicked out. But that's the only thing I'll mention like that.
Okay.
But I had some problems with people, but I don't fuck around. I would carry around a gun at night. One night, Zip and Lenny had a hidden spot where there was an AR-15 that was all pimped out. And my dad, when I was growing up, had 2 Kalashnikovs that he brought back from Vietnam. He had a couple other Russian rifles that he brought back from Korea, and about 6 or 7 handguns. And my job was to clean them once a month, or I would get my ass kicked. And I knew how to break them down and put them back together. And growing up in Norfolk, I hung out at a gun shop as his cleanup kid, and he let me help him rebuild stuff. So, but then I turned to crime and had a burglary ring for about 4 years till I got caught. Somebody snitched on me. And I got 196 burglary charges.
Ooh.
And I copped to everything I did. 4 of my other crew disappeared. I know where they live now. They changed their names and went straight, and they're doing well for themselves. God bless them. And they sent me money when I was in the pen.
Oh, good.
So anyway, I did my time. I copped to every single thing I did. My stupid ass left fingerprints. I'll never get caught. Bullshit. But I was evil about what I did. I was really good about, I looked real straight. My dad always kept me in crew cuts. And I kind of wore blue jeans, combat boots, and tank tops. And always had a shaved head because no hair. My dad didn't allow it. I did grow it long one time before I got locked up. But when I got locked up, I shaved my head the night I got in. Because I didn't want anybody fucking with me.
Right.
And a lot of my biker customers were in there for shit they did. And I used to supply them with a lot of shit I would burglarize. I had a whole system. I had my own apartment on the side. They never found the apartment because my guys cleaned it out and shut it down. And my name was on the lease. That's all the cops found. And they had empty rooms. So big deal. So anyway.
Well, that's a story. Damn.
Yeah. And also, back then, I was in this program when I got sentenced, and they intensely tested your aptitude and everything. And when I first got locked up, I did all those aptitudes and intelligence tests and started tutoring guys for their GEDs. And I never got fucked with then. And they looked out for me. And 4 out of 5 got their GEDs.
Nice.
And I like teaching people. It's ignorant to not know how to do shit. Growing up, my mom died when I was 3. And my grandmother and great grandmother, my dad had 3 girls, 1 adopted. Nice, beautiful Puerto Rican, Donna. And me. And grandma and grandpa helped dad because he was the oldest and he was an enlisted man. And back in the day, grandma and grandpa, we lived in their small house in an industrial area south Chicago. And oh man, it was awesome because they had it set up really nice. The house was big enough to hold us, and Dad was always gone all the time. So when my mom died, we lived with Grandma and Grandpa. And as a baby growing up, my grandma was a Scrabble addict and a champion for the state of Illinois, Teresa Francis Jeske. And her and her old gang of old ladies that knew my granddad because he was big time. He ran armaments factory for the war, and he built guns for battleships. That's what quality of machinist he was. And he had 4 boys: my dad, Don, then there was Uncle Cliff, Uncle Chuck, and Uncle Jerry. And everybody went in the military. My dad, the day he got out of high school, he had 23 offers to be a football quarterback. He was that good. He was a state champion for the state of Illinois. And he went to the Marine Corps to join, and they were closed. So he walked across the street to the Navy and joined. And he became a star. He got in the UDT program immediately, was a star diver, taught me all about swimming and diving and shit like that. I'm really good too. And anyway, dairy.
Yes, tell me more about the dairy.
Yeah, let's concentrate on that. So anyway,
Should I start keeping you on track, or do you like these side tangents? I mean,
here and there, but
All
let's
right,
let's deal with the dairy because there's so much to talk about.
I know that's what yeah, we're almost 40 minutes
So,
into this thing already. Let's talk
anyway,
dairy.
I was in Lenny's shop one day, and the rule was immediately I would lecture people: do not step foot on the ground floor or come in that fucking shop, because Lenny will tie you in a knot and kick you in the ass. And they're like, oh, ha, ha, yeah, sure. Then they met Lenny. And I was warned by all my hippie friends in the fan, especially, man, you don't know who the fuck you're fucking with. Those guys, because Zip beat a bunch of murder charges, like 5 or 6. No bodies that were ever found. But when they let me move in, I had a nice neon collection then because I had been working at Tally for about 1.5 years. And I was starting to learn all kinds of shit. I am a magnet for learning. And I had a museum in my house. And this is right when I met Lenny and Zip and Russell. And I'm a really good cook because before I worked at Tally, I worked at Mad King Ludwig's right out of the penitentiary. And I had hair down to my belt and a beard down to my belt. And I really enjoyed having a job. Pretty girls. I started dating some of the waitresses, which was fun. Once they found out I was ex-con, they fucking ate me up. But anyway, the chef, Mark, I can't remember his last name, the motherfucker, was this leather boy that was an asshole. Told me to go upstairs and get some cuts of steak out one day. And it looked like balls of snot wrapped in cellophane. Nothing marked. You're supposed to mark them with a fucking felt tip, indelible, what it is, so you can tell what the fuck it is. So I just grabbed a couple things, brought it down, set it down, went back to washing dishes. All of a sudden, I get clocked in the head with one. He threw the other two at me, but I fucking caught him. Put them in the sink. There were 3 butcher knives in the sink, and I'm really good at throwing knives. When penitentiary, when I ran the slaughterhouse for 3 years, for fun, they had wooden beams. We'd always throw the knives, and we'd gamble that way, and I'd win a lot of times because my dad always. I grew up throwing knives, so I'm pretty good at it. So anyway, oh God, I just rambled off too much.
Yeah, we didn't talk about the dairy at all.
Yeah, let's talk back to the dairy.
I thought this was all gonna relate to it. Does this relate to the dairy?
It does. It does.
Yeah, I believe in you.
But real quick. I threw the knives at him, and they stuck in the doorway behind him. I mean, it's like he quit the next day.
Oh wow.
They hired Andy Siff, who was the butcher at the tobacco company, real ritzy place, and Andy was classically trained as a chef. And he came to work, the nicest guy you would want to meet, and he became my best pot customer. And he taught me how to cook. And I got up to prep cook then, and I'd work 3 or 4 shifts in a row sometimes, and then go home and die for a day or so. Right. And Mike Fleck, who owned Mad King Ludwig's and a couple other restaurants, loved me to death because I was one of the hardest workers there. And then and I dealt pot to the managers, waitresses, and I had a real nice business going. I made a lot more money doing that than I did washing dishes. Yeah. And I put my money away all the time. I'm a miser. And I always ate well. And back then, I'm the dumpster king. This is lead up to the dairy.
Okay.
But I loaded up my apartment. I found the yearly migration at VCU, they throw away treasure yearly. Bikes. I'd get bikes. So I got 3 10-speeds, took them to Two Wheel Travel, and the guy that ran it, I said, keep what you want, build me 1 bike, which he did. And we became really good friends and a pot customer. And he was my bike mechanic for life. Okay, back to the dairy. So mountain bikes came out. There was a restaurant. I traded. The guy found a mountain bike in the apartment he just moved into. Turned out it was worth $2,200. But he wanted the neon clock I had bought in a barn, and I'd completely make it brand new. And I sold it. I traded it to them for the bike. And I had that bike at the dairy. But anyway, back to the dairy. People were moving in.
Yeah.
A lot of artists from VCU showed up. And the rule was I was a night owl. I would go to sleep for 3 hours and get up and go to work at Tally and come back. And I'd always get off at 4:30, no matter what. That was my rule at Tally. And unless we had some important jobs once in a great while, I wanted to spend the night there. And I would get there, get back to the dairy, and I'd do my rounds at night. Because getting back to the AR-15, one night I was in Lenny's shop, and I heard a bunch of racket in the garage, and somebody did not bolt the track shut. And these junkies had jacked it up with car jacks. And they were in there stealing batteries out of the 2 Volkswagen flatbeds and a big farm truck that was all pimped out. And the 2 flatbeds were in mint condition. And they were robbing all the shit out of the truck, out of them. And I kicked open the door, and I came up with the gun. It had a nice banana clip in it. 24 rounds. And this one asshole comes around. He goes, I got a gun. And I went like this. And he fucking ran across, jumped over the hood, and went out the fucking door. They disappeared. And I fired 2 rounds into the ceiling. Woke up, everybody hid the gun, closed the garage door, woke up everybody that was in the dairy at the time. Delaney, Chuck, everybody. And we stormed down there. Bolted shut all the doors. Called up Lenny, like, God damn you, it's 3 o'clock in that fucking morning. I said, got broke into. So I took apart the gun, cleaned it, put it back in the cabinet before I went to sleep, and we started a different way of doing rounds. I always had somebody go with me. And yes, we were armed. But we had no problems. I bet Lenny did catch some guys sneaking in there one time, and he chased them through the building with a 22 that he had to keep reloading. So that's why he couldn't shoot the guy properly. And then the dairy got a reputation for do not fuck with this building. Some guys climbed up the outside wall one time and got into Don Draculich's studio and robbed it. On that side of the building, over to the right.
I think he may have told me this story, or maybe he told it on something.
Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
And
yeah.
they fucking nailed his ass. And then I realized, I went out and checked out what was up, and I saw the marks where they climbed up the wall. So we went ahead. And there was a really good carpenter, Rig Terrell, who became the building manager after Lenny and Russell had moved out in later years. And he had a really nice studio right next to the building to the right. He lived in that gallery part. Russell lived on the 2nd floor of the dairy bottle. John Sundin lived in the top of the bottle.
I thought Hunter was in the bottle.
No, Brocky moved in there after John
Hunter.
Sundin. I know. No, Hunter
okay.
never lived in the bottle at all. He lived in to the left of the bottle.
Okay.
He had one of the parts of the bookkeeping office. Because it was all split up. The awesome thing about the dairy was all those offices were still up in there. The electricity worked. We got all that working again. And when they had to start renovating the dairy, they took out the wall panels, which were like Lego pieces. And I took one of them and I moved it into the warehouse area towards the left of the bottle, where you see there's doors that come out to the alley. And we put up bars on those so nobody could fall over there, because we had a dumpster under there where that we'd throw shit into when they were renovating the building. And one guy built this fortress up in one of the right in the corner of the dairy, which ended up being taken over by me. Ted Sanderson, you need to get with him, because he was
I've heard that name, yeah.
Did a lot of photo and movies of GWAR from Broad Street going down there. He was he put a little bit of time and money into it too.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to him.
And I was pals with Ted. If I'll try to find out if I can. He lives with his mom, I believe.
Shame, no shame in that game.
Oh fuck no, man! I wish my parents were still alive. We didn't get along back in the day. My sister became the executor and did not give me 1 cent. One thing I like is genetically, I am 100% in health. I've always had good health, even though having a lot of fucking problems in life. Went through a lot of surgeries from accidents and shit like that. The last bicycle, real quick, I'll mention this.
Sure.
I got hit by a car a couple years ago here. I was wearing a helmet. Didn't hurt my bike. I got a real pimped out. I got 5 mountain bikes. One of them's a Used to be a Karakoram, now it's a triple triangle. My buddy, the bike guy, is a wizard at picking out frames and shit for me. And I went to auctions and bought those. I bought pieces and he put them together. But anyway, I was leaving kitchenette where I was working as a prep cook and dishwasher. And some guy hit me in the ass doing about 50 miles an hour. And I was in proper speed spot and everything. And I came down to my face and it split me from under my nose to right about the edge of my chin, and my face was hanging down.
Oh my God.
And nobody would stop for me. And I was laying in a puddle of blood, and this guy and his wife stopped. My bike didn't get fucked up at all. It bent one of the handlebar sides. That was 1/16 of an inch. I'm a machinist. I know how to measure for that. And my guy looked over the bike too. But anyway, I woke up in the hospital in the operating room. I was trying to move my hands, and the doctor said, Mr. Jeske, you've been in a really bad accident, and we have to put you together like a puzzle. So he said, we're going to put you back to sleep. He said, and I was all fucked up. I was high as shit. So they put me under. Woke up after having real fucked up nightmares, and my face was put back together. But I'm like a starfish. I heal fantastically.
Amazing.
Anyway, back to the dairy.
I like that story. That was a good one.
Yeah. So anyway, and I don't let shit bother me one fucking bit.
Yeah,
I do martial arts a lot of knife work. My dad wanted me to be a ranger or a SEAL in the Navy. You'll make it up to captain. I was like, fuck you.
No, I'm going to make neon for GWAR.
Exactly. But I'm real good at taking fucked up situations, turning in good. I didn't realize I could have gone in the Marines instead of going to prison. And I fucked up. And I'd say, dude, I much rather would have gone in the Marines. Plus schooling and all that good shit. And I was a tough motherfucker. But anyway, getting back to dairy.
The dairy.
So anyway, after the
so Hunter's there, Chuck is there, Don is there.
Yeah, Pete Malika, who was this Ted Sanderson, you got to get with him because he is a wealth of information. He was there the whole time. I'll look him up.
Thank you. Yeah,
as best I can.
Sure.
And
was Dave there yet? Not yet.
No, Death Piggy did get in there pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave was an asshole to me immediately.
Tell me the Dave story.
He would joke about, oh, let's fuck the building up. Here, I'll piss on the wall right in front of me. And he poked at me a lot. And I started hanging out with Hunter. And I was like, dude, you want to buy some really good pot? There was a doctor who was a biology minor. And he grew this space weed.
Wow.
In his father-in-law's greenhouse. And I was the only one selling it in the regiment. It was called skunk or lamb's breath. And you could smell it through 3 baggies. And I walked up to Hunter and said, hey, Hunter, smell this. And man, like, oh my God. Then I started turning Dave and everybody on.
Did he say, hey, let's go smoke some of your cool weed?
Exactly, man. Exactly. That's a good Hunter imitation.
I've
Hunter nicknamed me the pot god because when there was no weed, I knew where to get it. And I had the one thing.
So that's how GWAR formed, space weed.
Yeah. Man, I'll tell you another story here. One thing Lenny liked about me, I was honest as a motherfucker. One time Lenny got drunk and smoked up all Zip's pot. So the next day, Lenny goes, Charlie took it because he's the only one who can get in my shop. So there was a note on my door to my space across from the milk bottle. I had an old shower room that one of the artists, as soon as they moved in the dairy, walled in the shower room on my side. This is before I got in that room. And he pimped out the bathroom and cut a hole in the wall. That became Chuck and Delaney's space. The artists before they took it over.
Let's see if I can find some pictures. I got pictures.
Oh, there's a black and white of me, Scott Crawl. There. I'm right there. That's me on the left.
Oh, I do have a picture of you. Nice.
If you'll notice, I got a bong in one hand and a cup of coffee in the other.
That's my kind of party right there.
Oh,
so
yeah,
what's
man.
happening here? And what whose room is
I was
this?
just
Chuck's?
coming in to get the fellas high.
So you were the motivation to get smoke some of your space weed and make some shit.
Oh, fucking A, man. I always was really good about turning them on because I'm that way.
Is this from a
And
newspaper?
I had a shitload of weed because the money I made and the availability was fantastic. And I told everybody, don't you ever fucking introduce me to a motherfucker. Because I said, then you got to deal with Lenny. And plus, I would tell on shit going on if it was fucked up. Because I will say this, I won't mention who, what, when, or where. There was a guy that was hanging out at the building. Turns out he was a convicted child molester, and he started hanging out with the kids group there, Richmond Philosophical Institute. And as soon as I found out its history, I got Lenny and Zip one day when he was there. Go up to the kids' space. There's 4 or 5 kids about 15 years old smoking weed and drinking beer with him. He had an ounce of pot on the table, and he would talk shit to me all the time, too. So Zip goes over to the window. There are really big windows on them old buildings, and opens up the bottom window. And the guy's cussing at us about, I'm like, I'm taking this weed. I'm confiscating it, you motherfucker. He said, what are you doing turning these fucking kids on? And Lenny and Zip told him how they were going to pick him up and throw him out the window. And that's why the window was open. And Lenny told him, you ever come by this building again? Because turns out the son of a bitch had put his hands down one of the kids' pants. But I mention this because I hate these motherfuckers. Chased him out of the building, put the word out on the construction scene, and he did not have that many jobs from then on. And he kind of went in the woodwork. Gotcha. Came back to the dairy one time, and I caught him up there.
Yeah.
And I started whistling out the door, and Lenny knew my whistle, and he comes out drunk as shit with Zip. I said, guess who's here? And by the time they got there, he was gone. Because he realized
lived
what
in the dairy, or he was just there once?
Oh, no, he was just creeper. Gotcha. And Hunter used as an electrician, but he was crap electrician.
Okay.
So, and I would be at customers' places working on their neon, and here comes this motherfucker. So I'd tell them exactly, and they get him kicked off the job. Immediately told his boss, no, you can't have that guy come. We got grandkids. And they gave me a bonus, too, for doing the neon work, because they was like, we're really glad you did that, because that motherfucker should be dead. And these were old people, too, telling me this. I'm like, cool, I'm all about that. I ran a slaughterhouse for 3 years in the penitentiary.
And you mentioned that.
Bloody job. You get to use really big knives. And I was the knife sharpener. My dad had me take care of his cutlery. He had what's called the Legend. It's this legendary diver's knife about that big that K-Bar made. He called it his Chaplain Skinner as a joke. But anyway, Dairy Days.
I'm just gonna
And,
start showing pictures and see what happens.
There, who is that? That's Delaney, I think.
Is that your place?
And is that Jim? No, that's Delaney. The bar is right behind there.
Because you made
as
that
soon
sin
as
sign, right?
I surprised him with that.
Oh, okay.
There was Pinnell's Bicycles. I had a deal going with all the neon customers that I had and future neon customers that owned property. Can I strip the neon off your building for free? I get to have the glass and I take the transformers and sometimes the whole sign because I get sculpture students at VCU and I let them have the sign cabinet in trade for the neon and helping me get everything. And I usually turned them on to neon too. Because about 5 years into being the pattern guy and running the shop, the asshole welder, head welder there, Ed Cummins, married the owner's daughter and became the foreman. And he treated me like shit. But he never fucked with me but so much. And he always joked about busting my face up. And you see how big my hands are. And it's like, I kept my mouth shut. I loved my job. And Mr. Rudd said, just fuck it, motherfucker. And he said, I'll shoot him. And he had a fucking 44. It was a state trooper's pistol the old man had. And I took it apart and cleaned it for him too. So anyway, we had a boneyard there of about 2,700 pieces of neon from back in the day that was still good, and we put it in storage. And we had a fucking graveyard of it piled up on the walls on these long rods. And Ed comes up all buddy one day when I was eating lunch, and he said, we need to talk. He said, well, I got a deal for you. He said, we got to throw away all that neon. He said, but Mr. Rudd talked the owner into giving it all to you. He said, you got to have it out in 3 days. There were dogs, 2 parrots, Paul Parrot logos, all kinds of fantastic stuff, and it all worked. And he told me, you got to have it out in 3 days. I said, are we busy today? He said, well, you got all the jobs out early, so you got a couple days off for the light work. I said, well, fuck. I said, can I make a phone call? So I called Lenny and Zip and Russell. I said, Russell, bring the fucking every vehicle you got and 12 people. I said, we got thousands of pieces of neon for free, and it all works. So 15 minutes later, they show up in the parking lot, come in, and all of a sudden, Ed freaks out and starts acting like a pussy. And yes, sir. No, sir. Oh, glad to see you're here. Well, I'm Ed Cummins. And Zip recognized him. Zip, years ago, was at this party, and there was smoking hot Greek girl there. And it was Ed's date. So Zip fucked up his shit, jumps up in front of her and starts dancing. He can dance his ass off, especially when he's drunk. And Ed hits him in the back of the head. Zip turns around and knocks him out cold with one fucking hit. Turns around, kept dancing with the girl. She's drunk as shit. Ended up taking her home.
Oh my God.
And anyway, we got all the neon, didn't break. I broke a set of curtains when we got it over the dairy. And in one gallery in Lenny's shop, it was like a cathedral in there. There were eye bolts in the walls across from each other. I don't know what they used that for back in the day. And there were steel cables in big piles that Pat Ward had left there. So I took the cables because they had hooks on both ends, and I laced them and made a clotheslines, like 40 of them in total. And we hung all the neon on. And I walked back on the truck. The last thing we had was this beautiful set of curtains. And I was, all right, God damn it. Now let's get all this, got everything's hung up. And I stepped on the curtains.
Ugh.
But Lenny picked out at all that neon, there was a Go West sign. Since he's from Arizona, it was West End Cleaners. But their logo was like a cowboy with a lasso that said Go West as a lasso. And Lenny got that and built a cabinet for it. It had oak and mahogany. And to thank Mr. Rudd, they made a oak and mahogany box that I put a transformer inside of so it was self-contained with the letter R. That was one of the finest bending jobs he ever did. And he walked into his shop one morning after coming out the bathroom. He said, "What are you doing in my shop?" I said, "Fuck you, old man." And then I turned it on and he almost started crying. And him and Lenny became great pals. Back to the story quickly. Ed called me in his office the next morning and he was real buddy. And he said, like, "Do you know who those fucking guys are?" I said, "I always brag about my badass friends." I said, "Those are my friends." I said, "We're our best pals." And I said, "By the way, Lenny said if you ever fuck with me, he's going to come over here and break both your legs." And Ed goes, "I never fuck with you. Oh, no. Let's get that straight." And he said, "Okay, you got all your neon." He said, "By the way, you missed some." So he gave me a ride back over to the dairy, and he was sheepish as shit driving over. But one time, Mr. Rudd would always make me neon because I was his pal. I did a lot of shit for him. Go to the store for him and shit. Went to the pharmacy and shit. And always called him, it was like military. I always called him yes, sir, no, sir. And he kind of made fun of me sometimes. But anyway, a lot of respect there. But he would let me always have all the scrap neon he would charge up for me. One time, 15 stores that had an American Eagle on both sides. This is getting back to dairy. And they took them all down and brought them back to have them all fixed and had all their neon renovated. First time in years. And I went in Mr. Rudd's room and it was neon eagles everywhere. He had them all lit. And he was like, "What do you think of that?" I went nuts. And I kept coming back all day until he kicked me out. And at the end of the day, I went in there. And ruby glass is a solid red soda glass composition other than leaded glass, which clear glass is. And it's real expensive too. And there was a ruby red eagle he just made. And he did it fast too. And I said, I almost fell over because I was almost hyperventilating. I got excited over fantastic art. And he goes, "Charles, I made that for you. It's yours." So I waited late that evening. I said, "Lenny, you got to come over and get me from the dairy." And I came out and nobody was there except Mr. Rudd. And Mr. Rudd and Lenny loved each other. Well, Mr. Rudd did a lot of neon work that I draw for Mr. Rudd. And a couple other shops that demanded my work because it was fucking spot on. And when you make neon, you have to reverse your pattern to bend it because the glass comes up. And then there's a flat surface, which is what we see on the surface in the face. And I draw it backwards for the guys. And a lot of people are like, oh man, how are you sure that's right? I'm like, fuck you. I kept an aluminum baseball bat underneath my drawing table.
There's
And
so
I'm
many
really
weapons in this story.
I know. Well,
great.
one thing I grew up, my
Your
dad.
story, I mean.
Yeah, my dad. This is a damn good story coming up. My dad would get pugil sticks. You know what those are?
No,
like a
what's
giant Q-tip.
Okay.
It's usually it's a wooden pole. GWAR had a bunch, and they'd work out with them. It's a combat tool too. Like, when you're fighting somebody with a rifle, how to take them out. So my dad started me when I was old enough. I was about 12 or 13. He started me practicing with pugil sticks with him. And my dad is deadly. He goddamn took me out many a time. But when I fight my friends, we go out to the Navy obstacle course when they leave pugil sticks out, and we'd fight until we got in trouble for it. And I would beat the fuck out of people because I knew how to fucking do it. But anyway, GWAR had the pugil sticks up there, and me and Dave are rip ass wasted. We had like 10 bong hits in a row. And Dave's like, pugil sticks, Charlie. I said, okay, no prob, dude. I took off my glasses. I said, no fucking headshots. Okay? And Dave's, oh, sure. What does he do? Nails me smack in the fucking face.
Jeez.
So.
Just bad coordination or on purpose?
On purpose. That was just Dave. It's like, you dirty motherfucker. And I'm really fast. I was a lot faster then. He fucking lunged. I read him right away. He was a lunger. And he do this shit a lot too. So he lunged at me. I fucking ducked. And I fucking stabbed him right here in the chest to knock the air out of him.
Oh.
And I spun the thing around like a drum major would do. The person leads the band.
Right.
And took it like a golf club, and I got Dave right in the balls. And he almost puked, and they had to lay down on the couch. And he said, through the thing, pugil sticks. I gave him a couple more bong hits.
Yeah, you better.
And Delaney shows up. Hey, Dave, what's up? You not feeling good? What to do? So then Dave left, and am I missing something here? And I told him, you want to go? He's like, fuck no, motherfucker.
No way.
Fuck you. So I never did that again with people. Because all the jobs I've always had, I would always go outside with a metal rod or a staff and work out once a day. Black guys had a lot of respect for me, and I was such a nice guy, and I sold them white man's portion of weed, because black guys would sell a half inch at the bottom of a pay envelope for $20. Fuck that. I gave them a fucking 4 or 5 finger ounce. I was very popular, but honest too, so I had a good customer base.
That's a good combination.
Tally. There was a billboard painter there back in the day that was a Michelangelo of billboards, and he drunk motherfucker. I was back there when I took over the pattern room, and it was a big room built out of billboard sections, and it was cool as shit because it was all the different ads. And I was leaning a ladder up against. I went in there and cleaned all the shit out of the ceiling and put lights and better lighting in there for when I needed the lights on. because I then turn it off and use the projector. And I became really gifted at tracing stuff out. And I could draw my own jobs in a heartbeat. I could do them in under 5 minutes, sketch out enough to do the finished work later at home on my drafting table or at Marilee's studio. She had a pimped out professional drafting table. And anyway, Derry.
Yes, let's the next hour. Let's talk about Gwar.
Yeah.
And the dairy.
After the Pugil incident, I was glad that I was over and done with. And one time, Dave and I had a bong hit contest with that weed. Dave made it to 20 hits, and he started fucking babbling incoherently, and then he passes out cold. I made it to 22, then I passed out. Next thing I know, Don Dracula, and luckily the bag was still in my hands. Don Dracula comes in. Hey, you goddamn drug ass motherfucker! Wake the fuck up, goddammit! Wakey!
It's a good.
So anyway, that was a funny story.
Nice.
Funny. This is hilarious. This is some wild times with Delaney and Chuck when they get drunk.
Is this them?
Can't remember. There's, yeah.
I think that's Chuck in the
other
red.
two
I
I
don't know who
don't.
the other two are.
It might be Pete Malika to the left, because I had Pinnell's was one of the buildings that I conned the guy into letting me get all the neon off it, and the sign on the roof. There was this girl who was a mountain climber when I had my hand bandaged up. And, oh, God, she was an angel. And she took good care of me. But anyway, she climbed up on the top of the sign and took all the neon down. She was a really good photographer. And she was fearless on heights. And we went up there and stripped the building. But as soon as Chuck came up, I'm going to call it the Chateau of Sin. I was like,
right, that's what it is.
Fuck. And so I got a piece of yellow plexiglass. I put it together, and Chuck helped me hang it. And you don't know, him and Delaney went nuts. That was the perfect sign for that bar.
Nice. Yeah, what happened in the Chateau of Sin? Any good?
Oh, man, all kinds of fucking mayhem. One time, Russell and Lenny were out of town at some festival because Russell was doing T-shirts there. And Lenny wanted to see the groups out of state. So they had the biggest party that Derry has ever had at the Chateau of Sin. There was upwards of 700 people there.
Whoa. Whoa. How big was that
rotating
room?
so 40 feet by about 20 feet of millable space. But as soon as the guys said, okay, we're going to have this blowout party, I said, oh, no. What we're going to do is we're going to have a rotating crew of sentries. Because we kept catching people, and some people I caught, I'm pretty sure they were about to fucking steal shit. And I chased them out at gunpoint, and they never came back.
Mm-hmm.
And they avoided me in the village. But they were scumbags. They were junkies. Because one guy who was living there gave the Lums junkies keys to the dairy. And I was upstairs in the GWAR space, and Dave and I were talking, and all of a sudden here all like these scumbags start walking through. So I automatically went down and got Lenny and Zip and 4 Neanderthals. And they removed them all, searched them, found a few things they had stolen, and took all the keys and gave me the keys. So after that, I was the one who handed keys out to new renters. and got the keys back from people who were gone or got kicked out or whatever. So, and the guy who let the Lums idiots in there, he was some rich kid that was the friend of Brocky's, and he always joked about, "Oh, fuck Lenny, I know karate." I'm like, Lenny can punch you and have his fist go through you, you cocksucker.
I feel like your
Anyway.
life needs to be a kung fu movie.
I did have a friend that I stayed with for a while that turned out to be a nut that was a kung fu instructor.
Okay, I
Big,
see.
bear-sized guy. But I moved away from there. I wanted to get away from all that negativity and all that other shit. I'm a really good chef. And when I moved into his house, he had a nice stainless steel kitchen that was a fucking scab. I said, okay, I'll clean the entire kitchen and the freezer and refrigerator, and I control the kitchen. You do not boil water. I'll do everything, which I did because I like to eat well. I don't want to get sick. And the motherfucker, he could make ham and beans. That was about it. And I'm 4-star chef. So I have 8 different recipes for venison. I think I sent you a picture.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
But anyway, dairy.
Yes.
So one of the things I used to do a lot of times was I had a wok, and I'd make like a big fucking massive amount of beans and rice and shit like that for everybody to eat. And I was really good at it. Dave used to make go-go goulash and shit like that. And he'd stretch it. One thing he did that would piss off the 7-Eleven guy, he would buy a bag of chips and he'd walk up the cheese and chili pump and he'd fill the bag. And he tried to get me to do it for him. I was like, fuck you, you go do it, goddamn it. I'm not getting that guy pissed off at me. The guy was real nice, Pakistani. I got along wonderfully with him. And he would have got pissed because he didn't appreciate that.
No, he's in the juice.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Dave used to eat at the 7-Eleven a lot. Another quick story. I'm going to tell it like it is.
Tell it like it is.
One of the girls in the high school group was this hot little number named Jennifer Ham, and she was a punker. So, Dave, she was fucking gorgeous. My fucking God. She was a goddess. But she was an asshole too. But
balance.
Dave met her when I think he was, I couldn't remember, his drummer or whatever for Death Piggy. And her name was Jennifer Ham. And Dave told me this magical story about how she sucked his dick. She wouldn't fuck him, but she gave him a blowjob. So it made me laugh my ass off to know that. So I kept thinking about it. I said, ham on the bone.
That's
and
you.
Dave and Don turned it into a song. Ham on the bone. Then I saw
that is a great story. Yes.
Yeah. Then I saw the G.I. Joe cartoons about Vlad the Impaler. And I said, Dave, Vlad the Impaler, you got to turn it into a song. And him and Don and whoever else. Then one day, Dave, Scott Krall, and it was at the Broad Street right across from Rocket's studio on the second floor. We went to Safeway, and Scott and I was just running our mouths, talking shit. And Dave went in the store, and it was Christmas time. And they were playing Frosty the Snowman. And Dave comes out laughing his ass off because we were ripped on weed. And this is right after we had done a bunch of bong hits. And he was Roddy the Bum Corpse. And by the time we walked from Safeway back to Guar Space, we had written the song completely. Do you
Which
know
one?
it? Roddy the Bum Corpse.
Roddy the Bum Corpse. No, what?
Roddy the Bum Corpse.
No, what's that?
Roddy the Bum Corpse. He was every wino's pal. He was there to please with loads of disease when geeks couldn't get a gal. There must have been some maggots in that headless corpse they found, 'cause when they fucked it in the neck, it began to thrash around. Whoa, Roddy the Bum Corpse, his pustules did abound. They were filled with tar and they shot real far when they dragged him on the ground. Now Roddy's just a puddle, and the bums think that's okay. With guts revealed and blood congealed, and they'll soon turn out that way. That's the Roddy song.
Wow, that's a new one for me.
And I came up with, I'm really good. Getting back to Grandma and the Scrabble.
Sure, you earned this story. Go for it.
My crib was right next to the Scrabble table. And I was the youngest, so I got pimp. I was the pimp. And I would always, good baby, didn't raise a lot of hell, did some stupid shit in life. And Grandma said for years, 2 or 3 years, this went on until I got out of the crib. And then I'd always be right there listening to them. And she said I was mesmerized by it. So in the 2nd grade, I could read and write fluently. And we moved from, my dad had remarried when I was 5. Nice Czechoslovakian lady, Marianne Swados. But she was evil because she beat me to death growing up. That's why I got crooked teeth. Banged my head up against a concrete sink.
Jeez.
Knocked 2 of them out. And I have a lot of scars from her. But anyway, she was a good homemaker, real good cook. That's how I got into cooking too. And anyway, Grandma raised me for a long time, and that's why I could read and write. And she would always hammer into me how to speak, write, and everything. So that's how I became pretty good. And my dad being real good with drafting and mechanical stuff, and Grandpa too. So that rubbed off on me really well.
Right.
So anyway,
and you can remember crazy songs like Roddy the
Roddy the Bum Corpse.
Whatever it is, it's on YouTube now. I'll never forget it.
Yeah. Oh man, I had people tell me at Tally, you can't sing that. So the Vietnamese guy, teach a song. And it was hilarious because to hear them, with that accent singing the song.
Wow.
And they didn't smoke weed though. It was Comey was the nephew and Ty was the elder. And Ty thought I was trying to take his job away from him by getting Gene Lee to teach me metalwork.
Right.
And for a while, when I quit at Tally one time, I learned soldering at VCU. And when I started working at Rayco, I applied as a solderer, like in the newspaper. And the old man walks me in, he shows me this thing about as big as a Volkswagen Beetle. It was a chimney cap. He said, you got to learn to build those. Can you do that? I was like, fucking A, because I had samples of like jewelry work that I did. I don't do jewelry. I said, you want to sell that? I was like, yes, sir. So $500 quick. Nice. So Real nice jewelry box for his wife. He bought it for his wife. But anyway, I worked
let me
there
ask
for
you some
3
questions.
years.
Oh, yeah,
Please
go
do.
ahead.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
should I just like start this interview?
Yes, please do. Don't let me be
Okay.
running things.
Did you go see Death Piggy shows? Do you have any Death Piggy stories?
No, I
No.
never hung out with that crowd because Russell, like Tim Herman said, Russell was like, because I researched and like, no, he cannot come in this building because he was an asshole.
Who?
Tim Herman.
Oh.
Oh,
No, he
quick
wasn't in Death
story.
Piggy.
Quick
Was he?
story. When
All
he
right.
fucked that shit up for Guar, Rocky, Delaney, everybody was back at the dairy.
Were you at that show?
No.
Okay.
But man, they were pissed. And Dave had stopped at the store to get a fucking bottle of MD 4040, which he was drinking down. And I had a hot date with this Japanese girl. That was porn star hot. We're still friends to this day.
Oh, great.
And I didn't want to pass it up because she was in town for the evening and I want to see Derry. I'm like, cool, no problem.
Sure.
And she had just got her nipples done. So anyway, and I drew all the tattoos that are on her. I have to get some pictures of them.
Yeah,
I have to dig them up. But anyway, I told you, wait until I call you because I don't want them to meet you. I don't want to fuck it up. Anyway, so Dave and then were, I want to kill this motherfucker. I said, no, what you do, I gave Dave 2 rolls of duct tape. I said, mummify them, then tape them to the telephone pole. And from what my understanding, they found him at the party, got the money that he had. Luckily, he had only bought some beer, but he was blackout wasted like he normally was. Because he used to come over to the dairy, and if he passed it there and Chuck and Delaney had to have him overnight, Chuck and Delaney had this way of doubling each other up when they were blackout drunk. Blacking out their eyes with indelible magic markers, write words on their face. So anyway, the Tim Herman story. They went to a party and found Tim. Didn't do a damn thing.
A different night than the show. No,
that was the night show.
Same night.
Yeah. Okay. And Rocky was in his cups too. That fucking MD 4040 got him rocking. And they were leaving, and Tim Herman runs down, fucking hits a puddle, falls in a puddle, passed out. So they duct taped his ass, mummified him, and took indelible magic markers and drew dicks all over his face and signs saying with an arrow, put dick here. And Tim had a job interview the next day.
Oh.
And being indelible, he couldn't scrub it off. So he put makeup on. And it bled through the makeup. And he went in and had an interview. The first time Dave met Tim, they had a hotel, old hotel on Broad Street they used for dormitories. And Dave was up there partying and he was going past somebody's room. And it was Tim Herman and another guy taking a big console TV and throwing it at the window, which I don't
Allegedly.
Approve. Allegedly.
Tim was on the show. He seemed like a nice man.
He is very intelligent too.
Yeah.
He was just a wild man. We all were.
Right.
I can't say anything. I do not see. He's one of the most intelligent people I know. Ladies' man, and he's a good person.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah. I got that impression.
So yeah, it's just fucked up shit that happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is so many years ago.
One time, all right, but they used to doll each other up all the time. And one time I went in there and Tim Herman's passed out and his eyes are blacked out and he's got toilet paper glued to his head.
Jeez.
And they used hot glue. And
That's cruel, man. That's cruel.
they had a toilet seat on his head. And I was in there and I started getting worried. And Dave comes in, fucked up his shit. This is at another time. He goes, what? Wait, what? Fuck this shit. And he picks up his head and he goes, whack, 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 whack,
Oh my
see?
God.
Whack, and drops him. And Tim's.
Poor Tim. Oh man.
But anyway, after a while, after the debacle of the duct taping and shit, because what I would have done was duct tape the son of a bitch to a telephone pole, because I guarantee any cops that showed up would call all the other cops and have their picture taken with them.
I mean, what did he do at that show? I mean, maybe I don't even want to know.
He threw powdered sugar in one of the fucking amps and burned it out.
Oh, is that what happens?
Yeah. And
I don't know if he even remembers what
Rocky
happened.
came on stage after Tim Herman was and he grabs the mic, tries to grab it from Herman, and they had to wrestle for it. It was stupid as shit. The drunk son of a bitch shouldn't have come out in that shape.
Wow.
The last time I ever had a drink in my life was the GWAR party at Mike and Heather's house, which was a quad that Lenny owned, 2 basement apartments and the 2 houses upstairs. Liz Fairbairn and Cindy lived on one side, and Mike and Heather lived on the other. And man, that was a fucking monster party.
When was that?
80s.
Yeah.
Maybe late 80s, mid 80s, something like that.
That's the last time you had a drink?
Yeah, because I went around. I always was tried to be the responsible. And I went around and gathered up money and had a list and wrote down everything. And I bought a bottle of Jägermeister. And a shitload of people were like just there to soak up shit. So I was taking a few shots. Mike and I were taking some shots of whiskey, and I got an attitude about moochers. So they came back with everything, and I had the bottle of fucking Jägermeister, and about 40 cups come up, and it's like 2 girls that were smoking. I filled them up, and I drank the whole bottle.
Oof.
And
are you the Jaeger monster?
I'm allergic to cabbage too, which Jägermeister's made from.
Oh.
And man, it was like doing morphine and moonshine at the same time. And I've drank moonshine before, which I quit. But my roommates, turns out, had a junkie friend that was from North Carolina, went down and robbed the moonshine man. And the moonshiners came up to my apartment because I came in my kitchen, looked in the pantry room, which was about big as a really large double wide closet full of gallons of moonshine. The whole fucking thing, about probably 170 gallons. And somebody's knocking on my door. I open the door and there's 4 fucking Andre the Giant sized sumbitches. And they had guns under their coats. And it's like, we need to talk to you, buddy. I said, you hear about some moonshine? He said, yep. Walked upstairs, helped them get all their moonshine back, told them where the guys were. I didn't have roommates anymore. And I was glad because I moved out of that building. But anyway, and Lenny knew about it too, because he bought some of the moonshine off him. But anyway, they were having the Guar party, and then the fucking Jägermeister hit me. And he had a double wide staircase that went down in the backyard. And I walked up there, and I look at Scott crawl and grin, and I'm fucking puked all over the fucking stairs all the way down. People
I thought you were gonna fall down him.
No, I almost did. And I freaked out.
So bad.
I freaked out, and I turned around, and Heather wanted to kill me. I was wasted. I go, baby, please forgive me, darling. And I went downstairs because Lenny had a hose that would reach in half the yard with a fire hose nozzle on it. And I fucking got somebody to turn the hose on when I got back up the stairs, and I completely cleaned them down perfectly. And then somebody started making fun of me in the crowd because it was assholes to elbows on the entire porch. I turned around and the hose was going full ball. I fucking got them. And they were running back and forth, and Heather laughed so hard she almost she was hyperventilating. And somebody ran downstairs and cut the water off, and I dropped the hose and staggered home. And 2 girls went with me to make sure I got home. And I didn't go in because I sat there for a day and a half puking. Then the girls came back to check on me and gave me a bath and fed me yogurt. And then we went to the village restaurant, and I was okay. And I never touched a drop from that fucking day.
Wow.
Not cook with alcohol.
Yeah.
That's it. And
That's
I'm
like
real
almost
good about
40
that.
years.
I do not drink. I do not believe in it whatsoever. And I quit doing it. I had a Coke habit for a while, but I gave that up as soon as I got tired of it.
Weed is just so much better.
Oh, man, it's spiritual. And now I got a weed man. He is now got 14 different strains going. And he's
right, because Virginia it's not legal there, right?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it is?
You can grow 2 plants.
Oh, okay.
Lenny has got 30-year compost pile on his property fantastic house he built for himself, a mansion. And it's like a small city of garages. It takes up 2 or 3 blocks for what he's got, and it's all treasure. He's got 50,000 albums.
If I come to Virginia, I'm coming to you first.
One of the albums is signed by all the Beatles.
What?
Yep. And I would always turn Lenny on. I'm real good at getting albums because in working for a guy for Cecil Hicks hooked me up with a guy that cleaned out apartments and shit. And some guys got fucking locked up for a long time because I would research it for Cecil. He's like, anything in there worth money? I was like, I told Cecil gold coins one time. And who knows where they came from. But Cecil gave me 5 of them. They were Krugerrands. And Cecil always gave me all kinds of shit to sell for myself. And a lot of times, like, just clean that place out. I ain't worried unless it's cash. One time I did find like $1,500, but I kept all of it because I needed the money bad.
I won't tell anybody.
Cecil's dead. That doesn't matter. Plus, I did an amazing amount of work for him, rebuilding stuff. He'd buy neon clocks and old signs. And I had 2 different vendors that were friends of mine because I did all their drawings. And the rule was, unless it was drawn by me, they wouldn't touch it. So that was cool as shit. One time, that GWAR sign, where it's the different letters.
Oh, the one that you sent me, or a different one?
The one I sent you.
Somewhere.
I made that up for Brocky. And
When was
they
this?
broke the W.
Oh.
So Bobby called me and said, I'll buy another W. So I got there, and the W was in about 30 pieces. But I'm real good at putting stuff together to remake the patterns and all. So I drew it. We go over to Clarence or David Feltz the third. Clarence Feltz was his granddad, who was my friend, and this is his grandson. And I told him what we were doing, and this is Bobby from GWAR, and Feltz goes, "Well, fuck, man, I'll make it right now." And in front of Bobby got to see how the neon was made.
Nice.
And we get it back to the space, and it fit perfectly. I'm really good at what I do. A lot of people would always get me to fix their neon because they wanted it exactly like it originally was. So
skills. That's special skills.
I taught. They had a neon class at VCU for a couple months, and I donated a bunch of equipment to this really great glass artist. And he never made me any glass, so I took all the equipment back when the shop failed because he didn't know what he was doing. And I sold it all to a friend of mine that I helped start a business on the side of Tally, Uptown Neon. Guy had millions, and he invested his money. Well, he had a lot of money. I won't say millions, but he turned it into a fortune. And he was a really good neon bender because I introduced him and Mr. Rudd when I first moved in the dairy. And Doug came over, and he bought neon off me as much as he could. And I had a lot of treasure because I would go all over Richmond, take down neon. I had those thousands of pieces. None of them, we never broke, maybe one or two out of all that neon. I've still got a bunch of it too. But Lenny would make cabinets, and I'd put the neon in them and put the transformer and make it self-contained and fireproof. And we did really well like that for a while. We did a lot of restaurants too.
Well, I believe you.
GWAR started doing videos, so I did all the neon for him.
Right. Let's watch a video. I got one.
Cool.
I got one. I think it's about time. I think we've earned a video.
Excellent.
Let's find it. This was the shimmy disc. I think it's in the middle here somewhere. Right. Oh,
That's Colette.
Yeah, she was on the show.
Cool. She's really a good artist too.
Yeah, she does a lot of the Wings project now.
Yep. That is definitely her. I remember when I did the giant mountains of Antarctica in neon.
Oh wow! What was
at
that
the
used
flood
for?
zone? And what it was the peaks were made out of about 12 feet long.
There's
pieces
the
of
sign, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There's the sin.
Oh yeah.
Is this filmed in that Chateau of Sin, or did they move it somewhere?
They might have moved it somewhere.
Yeah.
It looks like it.
Nice. There we go. We had our little video moment.
Oh man, I've got one of the best stories ever.
Go for it.
Me and Don one day, and it was Christmas time, are doing bong hits, and we are fucking probably done about 10 each. And all of a sudden, we hear big band music. And Don's like, what the fuck is this shit? He said,
Where are you, at the dairy?
Yeah. And we were in the place that I took over for a while after they moved out, that room. And I said, it's a fucking Christmas parade, Don. And he looks at me and jumps up and he goes, help me get the roach suit.
Oh, I have that
So
in
we
here.
run outside with it and we're laughing our asses off. And a bunch of other dairy artists are with us and help him get in the suit. And he crashes the parade. And they had just stopped. And he got right behind the WPLZ black radio station. And they fucking started taking off. And man, he was having a blast. And walking really well. And the clowns were running up to him and acting like they're gonna kick him in the ass. He pissed off a lot, and it fucked up the news footage too, because nobody wanted to have him showing.
Was
and
it
we
on the
walked
news?
Down.
That's funny.
We should take him film. I wish Ted Sanderson would have filmed this.
Yeah.
And they would stop every now and then, like the parade would do, to restart, and they'd stop and start constantly because they had to stay so far apart properly. And Don got in front of the J.R. Tucker marching band, and he started acting like he was their mascot. And every time he got right in front of the drum major, and he walked up to her like this, fucking with her. And she almost hit him with the baton. And all of a sudden, the parade starts up, and Don jumps up, turns around to the band, and goes, waving them on. He just kept walking. And the little kids loved him because every time they'd stop, he'd run over to the crowd and shake hands with all the kids.
Oh my God.
Then they got down to the judges' booths, and the fucking judges were flipping out. They were looking through all their fucking paperwork and motioning at each other. And the fucking woman fucking gave Don the finger.
Success.
But man, that is one of the best fucking times I ever fucking had with Don.
Well, that's a good segue. Oh, go. Do you got another one?
Got plenty.
You're just rolling them off.
I got some classics. Delaney, me, and Chuck were at the village, and Chuck and Delaney, of course, were getting sloshed. And we're walking back down Broad Street to the dairy, and it was dark. They had a issue and would cut off the street lights downtown. And we got right near the one of the Empire Theater, and there's this brand new Scottish flag about 30 feet up, 35 feet up. Beautiful fucking flag. And we're walking, and Delaney stops and he looks at it and goes, I want that flag. I want to get that motherfucker. So he runs over to the side of the building and shinnies up the fucking drain pipe to the roof. Runs down the roof, hits the parapet, and jumps about 7 feet to the telephone pole and caught it.
Wow.
Shinnies up it, undoes the flag, drops it to me, slides down, grabs like, puts it under his coat, and that became his flag. And I reminded him about it the other day, and the look on his face, he goes, God damn, dude, I could have died. I said, yeah, I think.
What kind of flag was it?
Scottish with a lion. Looks like a coat of arms.
Gotcha.
So
Yes, it
there's
is.
more
Yes.
to this story. So him and Chuck would fucking tie each other's shoes together. They duct tape their hands over their mouth, black each other's eyes out. Chuck was laughing his ass off, drunk off his ass still next morning. And he was fucking preaching and marching around the space. And I went in there and he started clowning. He said, come here, you gotta see this. Go to Delaney's room. Delaney passed out cold. He's got the flag on like a Superman cape. He's got his shoes tied together and duct taped together. He's got a beer in both hands, unopened, duct taped.
Oh, no.
And he's got a crown of beer cans around his head, duct taped to his head. So we're like, and I had a rule. Let them get out of there. Unless it's life-threatening, I'm not helping. So for a day and a half, Delaney was, and he had duct tape over his mouth. And he had to take the can and rub the tape off his mouth. Then he had to bite the tape off his hands, untie his shoes, get the crown off. And he walked around and fucked up his shit for a while with the flag on. And Russell and Lenny were like, went down to the bathroom. And Russell and Lenny saw him. And he's like, hey, like, okay. And Lenny goes, Charlie. Isn't that one of them flags from Broad Street? He said, you think? He said, how did that drunk motherfucker get the flag? And he thought it was so funny because I told him the story that he forgave him. He said, that's a classic. He said, I'll have to think about that. I got some Lenny stories that are balls ass funny.
But, but should we keep it a focus?
Yeah.
Should I keep you focused? Here, I gotta know. You gotta tell me about Schaefer Court and being the Watcher. Like, that's the main meat here.
I was at the night of the show where I did the mountain scene was the first time the Watcher appeared. Because
you did multiple shows?
What's that?
You did multiple shows?
I did at least 3 shows, I think.
Okay, yes. Tell me the story of the Watcher.
2 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The band sucked that was up first, and they said, you got to turn off the flasher because it's throwing our rhythm off. I said, oh, fuck you, pussies. I turned it off. And the crowd got pissed, too, because they fucking liked it. So the band played, they cleaned up all their shit, and Delaney comes up to me because I had a radiation suit, a robe that laced up, and pants, combat boots,
what color is the robe? These are important details.
Green. It's a military.
Green. Military green.
And I took a welding helmet and put a clear piece of glass in it so I could see out of it. And I put like a little bridge all the way around it and put a piece of green neon, and it was perfect. It was like a little suspension bridge. And then I ran cables down to a box I'd carry on my side with the transformer. And I didn't have any portable power units, which I should have had. But I had a 30-foot long cord. And Delaney goes, man, put your suit on, man. We got the crowd's getting restless. So I ran out there and joked around and fucking walked up to the girls because I was a watcher and scoping them out and making them turn around.
Were you saying? Were you talking or just like?
No, I didn't talk. I just
as a
flicked the
mute
light.
character.
And some
Yeah.
girls were being assholes, and some people would grab them and make them spin around. That was funny. And then all of a sudden, I saw Delaney waved at it, get off the stage. And so I got off the stage. And that was what I did that show. When Schaefer Court came up, they were building the jet engine. And I said, well, fuck. I talked to Dave, and we came up with the idea about having me be up on the throne. And in some of the photos, somebody's got to have a decent photo because I've seen it. It does exist.
Let's see if it's in my.
I built the. I put up the throne, and I had pterodactyl silhouette as the back panel.
There,
and I put up
right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So are you in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm inside the suit. And I had a small sin sign on the back of the throne.
Yes, you can see it sort of.
Funny as shit. You got to hear this.
Yeah.
There was no ground on the electrical system for part of the stage that I was plugged into. And I wasn't grounded because I was up on the throne. I was inside. There I am right there.
One. Yeah.
That's
what
it.
Are you doing here? You're just like leaning over?
Yeah, and I'm flickering my light because Dave would stop and run over and like pray to me or just, bow down to me. And I would give him thumbs up. And I'd, bop around in time with the music and stuff.
Right.
But being not grounded, if you walked up to me and grabbed me, you got about 1,500 volts.
Oh,
geez. People were doing that when it got really crowded and were flying backwards. And I did not know what the fuck was going on till the end of the show. Because Guy Kurtz was on top of the wall and he leans over there and grabs my shoulder and flies off in the air. He didn't get hurt. Knocked him on his ass. And then I realized that there was no ground. So I turned off the power and got off and unplugged it because the show was over.
Mm-hmm.
So but that was an awesome fucking show.
Was there like any discussion about who the Watcher was and what his relation to the story was?
He likes to watch.
He likes to watch.
I got it from Marvel Comics. That's where my idea came from.
Right, like those Watchers in space.
Yeah, and I kind of did. I thought of a great mask. I've still got the costume.
Really?
Yeah.
Can we see
it? I got it in store. I'll have to go dig it out of storage.
Because there's a guy who makes
House of Masks.
No, not House of Masks. John Poppy. He makes toys of every character, no matter how obscure. So we gotta know what you looked like.
I'll have to get.
I just have personal interest. Yeah.
Oh, I can dig it.
That would be super cool. Do you have the whole mask and everything?
Yeah.
There are GWAR museums who might be interested in that. Just
hell
putting
yeah.
that out there.
I understand. I've even got the boots I wore and the gloves.
Dude, that's incredible. That's probably the most preserved suit or costume from that era.
I'm sure it is. And the Transformer box and everything.
Wow.
I might have to have the neon remade, but I know it by heart.
I feel like you need to rejoin GWAR. You have the suit already. All you have to do is watch.
Yeah. Dave wanted me to he wanted to develop the character, and he's like, man, can't you do like a strap on and have a neon dick under your suit? No, I'm not into that.
Mm-hmm. That's funny. And then was that the last
funny as shit, of course. And I did have an acrylic giant phallus shape. I could have made it out of.
Oh, I bet.
One thing I did appreciate from the crowd, and they found out when they throw beer bottles at me, I'd throw them back. And I'm a really good shot too. But I quit because I almost hit a girl the second time.
Right.
Oh, I knocked the shit out of one guy who was an asshole because I caught him outside and cussed him out. And he apologized and shook hands and life going on.
Right.
And he never threw shit at shows anymore, I noticed. That's one thing.
Did you electrocute him?
He might have been somebody who I did, because one girl kept trying to jump up and grab my legs and knock the living shit out of her. And Dave saw it and thought it was part of some joke or something, because he was like, ah.
I mean, it seemed like chaos up there.
It was awesome. It was the best seat in the house.
Yeah, I bet. Wow, so that is the story of the Watcher, perhaps the most obscure GWAR character ever.
Oh yeah,
I
used to wear it to Halloween parties and stuff like that.
Before or after?
After.
Yeah.
Got a lot of data hooked up with a lot of girls that way too. They loved my fucking costume.
Dude, you could go to like comic conventions these days and stuff, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That'd be fun. Let's bring back the Watcher. Let's make this a thing.
That was nice of Chuck to mention that, man.
Oh
really
yeah, I mean, I knew about you, but I didn't know
Mhm.
you were a character. Like it blew my mind.
Mr. Rudd loved it, the old neon guy. When Chuck was renovating that giant fiberglass iguana at the GWAR space, he got Mr. Rudd to make a neon tongue for it. And Chuck went over on his own. He didn't go through me, which it didn't bother me because it's Chuck.
Yeah.
Because Danielle was with the circus act.
Oh yeah, the Girly Freak Show.
Before the guy she worked for Girly Freak Show, Zamora the Torture King. Because they showed up at the GWAR space, and twice I tried to make a statue of Danielle, and I made a mold of her.
Oh wow.
You know, wrapped her up in wet plaster.
You still have that?
It first one got destroyed by accident. Second time I hired her to do it, I left the mold at the space, and
it's gone.
Yeah, they use it as a prop, which didn't bother me. I shouldn't have left it there that long, because I was best friends with Ken Ibsen, who ran the glass department at VCU, and he gave me permission because he was teaching me how to make glass statues, which he made.
Wait, so it's at VCU?
Yeah.
Wait,
he was the professor there for many years.
Right, but that mold, do you think they're still using Danielle's mold at
No.
VCU? Oh, because
I was going to mold it, but GWAR did away with the mold, and the first one got destroyed in my many moves. But it was a lot of fun molding her too.
Yeah, I bet.
Delaney walked
She'll be on the
in.
show eventually, okay, everybody?
Yeah,
just
Delaney
wait,
walked up on us when she was standing there, and I was about to wrap her. He's like, "Whoa, hey!" But Danielle's awesome, good artist. Too.
Yeah, and she's still working a ton too.
So Zamora and her came to town, and they had a neon lightning bolt that was broken. So I took Danielle over to meet Mr. Rudd back when they were doing the video, and she came over in her costume. And Mr. Rudd's a gold country boy. Every time I had a hot stripper I was dating, I'd to bring them, and Mr. Rudd would show her how neon was made. And I had a lot of times one of the secretaries, "You can't come in here like that." And Mr. Rudd's like, "Fuck you." He actually cursed at her. And he was always a gentleman. But then he's like, "Come in, my dear." And one girl showed him her piercings. She pulled off her bra. He's like, "Oh my God." I said, "Well, this is what what I get to work with all day because I was working at a tattoo parlor at the time.
Yeah,
But
tattoos and piercings were just kind of on the rise, like, and still in the underground though, right?
I've got one pierced ear
Yeah,
because one girl wanted to get me to get my nipples up. Fuck that shit.
I
Somebody
used to
grabbed
have a
me like
nipple
that.
piercing.
That can hurt.
Oh yeah. I had to take it out. Now I just have this eyebrow.
Yeah. Yeah, I had the ear done one time. It got infected in jail and healed, and then I got it done properly by a
Right.
biker.
Sure.
So anyway,
Wow. So how much longer did you kind of hang out with the GWAR guys, like after she
Bonner and
quit?
I were really great friends because a lot of times he didn't
I
have
would
anything to
love to talk
do.
to him.
I would hire him to help me do neon work. One time at the dairy, there was a restaurant on Hall Street right next. The police department was a block away. They had in their derelict building 2 windows from 1932 that were neon curtains, clear blue and Frankenstein green, because it was soda glass that was green patched into them in perfect fucking condition. So I knew a guy that was a neon collector, big time, and a drug dealer. And one night we're at the dairy, it's miserable, snowing like 20 motherfuckers, but me and Mike are fucking troopers. I gave him this military greatcoat that he always wore. It was like a armor against cold. And I had a really killer zip up suit. And I grew up in Chicago in terrifically Arctic weather. And it doesn't bother me one bit. And I had always planned on getting those curtains. So it was snowing so fucking bad you couldn't see shit. So I ran to Mike. I had one joint left, so he smoked it. And I said, Mike, you want to help me with this shit? And I told him the story. He's like, yeah, let's go, man. So we walked from the dairy all the way across the bridge to Southside Hull Street. We go around back of the diner, and the wall had fallen. And the place was a museum because the dinerware out of there. There was a wino living in the building, right up near the front window. This is how we found out. So we go in there. The police are walking back and forth. They're all bundled up, not even looking up. And Bonner starts taking the curtains down and handing them to me. So I stepped back and I thought I was on a water bed. And Bonner looks down and says, hey, Charlie, be careful. I said, you're standing on somebody. So I step off and the wino throws the fucking covers over and starts to say something. I said, what are you doing in my building, motherfucker? So and I had a blanket with me too. So he pulled his blanket back over, so I put the blanket I had and put it on top of him and let him have it. And Mike went right back. We got all the curtains, didn't break them or anything. There was a black chicken joint just before you got to the bridge that was open. We went in. I bought Mike. I had enough money to buy us chicken. And I used their phone to call the neon guy. And I told him what we had. He had a Volvo 4-wheel drive. And he came over and got us. Mike sold him his set of curtains. He gave him $400, half a bag of weed, and 3 grams of hash. And I didn't sell mine, but Doug gave me a bunch of weed and $50 because he knew I was broke. And he was in heaven. And I said, tell you what, one day I'm going to save these curtains, so let's hang them up in your shop. And I trusted Doug. So anyway, Doug ended up owning them, and he put them up in a neon show the museum had. And I walked up to these attorneys at the neon show. There was this neon artist, quick story that deals with the dairy too. There was this guy named Bob Ziegler who was the first guy who learned neon as an artist here in Richmond, and he turned it into a real good business. Worked for Welch Grape Juice doing neon for their TV ads and magazine commercials. And he did tons of neon all over town, but he did a half-assed way of wiring it. He'd use speaker wires, and you can't use, the electric chair doesn't use speaker wires to power it. And he caused a few fires that way. So I was critical of him doing that, but at a later time we became friends. And Ziegler would go all over town and steal neon off buildings, even places that were not open all the time. And I always would meet the owners, tell them what I was doing. Once in a while, I'd tell them I'd sell a neon, and I'll give you, what do you want to sell it for? Most of the time, it was like, get it off my building, because legally, if neon glass fell and hit you and cut you, which it could, you could sue the motherfucker. So I'd always tell them that. And I'd always do a perfect job. And that's where I got all my supplies from, was reusing all the stuff I'd take off the signs. And I was a historian too, because Tally had a city block junkyard of signs and crates that were unopened from back in the 30s.
Whoa.
And I'd sneak over there because the guard dog, Ripper, was a pit bull mix, and I feed him with bacon. And it turned out he wanted somebody to pet him. So I go over there every weekend. And Mr. Rudd found out I did this later, but he didn't say shit because I was nice to
Is this the same dog from before
No,
that you were feeding
it
bacon?
wasn't Crusher.
You just have bacon for all the dogs in the neighborhood?
That's the way you get to be a dog your best friend, man. You bribe them. There's a, what is it? Corso, where I work washing dishes, that named Inky. He's as big as me already. And he fell in love with me already. So, and he's got cat eyes. He's got eyes like a fucking cat. It's awesome.
Wow.
And the lady likes the fact he likes me. She trusts me.
Yeah, I'd hope so. They're a good judge of character, right?
Anyway, back to dairy days. GWAR moved around. I think Chuck and Delaney, I don't remember what happened if they were there to the end in the big space. But one time they had a friend of theirs who was a friend of Delaney's, but he was a snooty ass, insulting piece of shit. I couldn't stand him immediately because, what are you doing living here? You fucking wino or something? You look like it. And I'm like, I was cutting up kitchen on the bar top, and he had his hand up there, and I fucking slammed the knife down in the bar top, and the lady laughed his ass off because the guy fell over his feet. He was kind of drunk, and he stopped. He didn't fuck with me from then on. So, because I'd use their microwave. So, cut to next morning, I could hear them bouncing around in their space because they'd gone out to breakfast and come back. And Chuck came around. He was kind of fucked up, and we gotta have a little discussion. He said, "Come on next door and smoke a joint with us. We need to get high." And we're kind of hungover. He said, "But don't react to so and so when you see him. Don't say a goddamn." The guy's eyes were blacked out with magic marker. and they had been to breakfast. And the fucking where they went knew Chuck and Delaney. So they were running. The girls told me later that day they had to go in the back room to laugh and come back around straight faced. And Chuck came up to me and said, "Don't react." So I didn't. And the guy was walking around talking shit and bumping into shit because he's still fucked up. So I hear him go in the bathroom. I hear the door shut. And all of a sudden, and I left right then.
Oh my God.
I never saw him come in the dairy again.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of themes to your stories.
One time at the GWAR space on Broad Street, Hunter was the only one there. And there was these evangelists down on the street corner singing, and oh, praise Jesus. So he runs and gets the Odoris's head and puts it on. And he runs back and he sticks his head out the window and he goes, "Be gone! You don't own this realm, it's mine, all mine! Praise Satan!" And they started doing signs of the cross and they fucking took off.
Wow.
Second part of that story, years later, they had Murray Olds, the same evangelical people. They're having a revival inside the big automotive showroom. And Chuck and everybody were going to a Halloween party. And Chuck got dressed up as the guy that got gutted. And he put plenty of spew all over him and stuff like this. And starts walking down Broad Street. I took off because I didn't walk up when this happened. Chuck heard the evangelicals, and he was kind of fucked up because we did a bunch of bong hits, and he takes off across Broad Street, and he fucking slams into the window. "Oh no, I'm fucking up!" And he rolled his way down the window, and let the fucking blood and carotene all over the fucking place. Picks himself up and starts strutting to the party.
Wow.
Man, the looks I got, I had people call an ambulance for me one time when I was coming back from a show. Once in a while, I get in the mosh pit, and if Dave knew I was there, he fucking would blast my ass. Daniela reached down one time and yanked me up on stage and strangled me and threw me on the ground and kicked me off the stage.
Nice.
That was funny as shit. I played along.
Yeah, of course. How far into the GWAR's career did you kind of like hang out with them or follow them?
Up until I quit working at Tally. Because a lot of times I quit Tally and I go and hang out at the GWAR space on Broad Street. Because one time there's somewhere exists a piece of art called Sleazy's Body Shop. And it was a cartoon page I did of Sleazy P. Martini had a body shop where they put car parts in you if they didn't have the right organs. And the head surgeon was this big demon with ram's horns on. And they everybody there had blood spattered on them. And Hunter inked it too. But I don't know what Hunter still might have it.
Was it ever
published? And I do a very flat form of art too. Kind of like Diego Rivera, because I grew up loving his work and it kind of rubbed off on me.
I think maybe I have one. Let's see. What's this?
Yeah, that is.
Okay.
That was my girlfriend, and I had this African mask and a striped tablecloth. and she put on the panties and the garters. That was Jill Mauser, biggest tits in high school, and best dressed best dressed. She came up from New York. She came down from New York to visit me when I got out of prison.
Nice.
So she wanted a painting of herself, and she got a print of that. And Susan offered me that, and I traded her for a glass drinking cup.
So who has this now?
The girl that's got the Brocky painting.
Oh, okay.
Susan.
Right. So that's the next thing here,
Shaw.
right?
Yeah, that's it.
So tell me about this. What's going on with this?
That was Brocky's senior painting show. He painted that. He had a real wild style, kind of like Van Gogh in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man!
And it's for sale, right?
Yeah, it is.
Tell us a little bit about that.
You know first.
Well, I mean, I can't afford it, but if maybe one of the bohabs out there who's listening, watching, tell what's the details?
Exactly. Got to talk to Susan, see what she wants for it.
All right.
And I want her to deal with him directly herself.
Right.
And she's okay with that. Yeah. I'm just glad to be part of doing that.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go, everybody out there. If you want a Dave Brocky painting, there's one available.
It's one of the best pieces too. One thing Brocky did, he would always do these little tiny doodles of really sick shit, like Wog, son of Wog, like a corpse with a little word balloon saying "There's nobody in here."
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone here knows his style.
Dave had been by looking for me because there'd be a new cartoon on my door, my space.
Oh, man, tell me you kept some of those.
I wish.
Oh, I know, right?
He'd always, what I did on the fucking up, I could have got the plywood panels they were drawn on. But Dave at VCU, I don't know. He must have been fucked up as shit. He wallpapered in the Pollock building the entire stairwell. It was amazing how he must have wore out about 5 Sharpies drawing all that shit.
Oh,
but I went in there and he almost got kicked out of school for it.
Oh, now they would be celebrating.
Yeah, exactly. Because I walked in there, I knew exactly who the fuck it was. Because I took Lenny to look at it, and we walked up through the whole place. And then, oh shit! Let me go get my charger real quick. I'll be right back.
Sure, yeah, go for it. Oof! What an adventure. How is everybody in the chat doing? If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'm probably going to start landing this plane soon. But what a fascinating character. Humongous is here. Testing neons with a stun gun blew my mind. Sweet.
Glad that thing notifies me. It was 100% when I started.
Yeah, well, we've been at it for a minute.
Yeah. Love this fucking phone though. It's my computer. I gotta transfer everything to my computer too.
So yeah, I'm probably gonna start landing this plane, but let's get you on a few final topics. What's this?
That was the fish project. Each city across the U.S., some cities did horses, some did cows, some did sunfish. I think New Orleans did sunfish. So Richmond was bass. So I signed up for it. And I went to pick up my fiberglass fish. And they had to mass produce them. and some of them were still soaking wet, and I'm kind of allergic to fiberglass. So I told the guy, no, fuck, I'll make one. So I went home and I called my dad because he was on the Nautilus and a bunch of other submarines. He was on the first nuclear-powered submarine's maiden voyage, machinist mate second class Donald C. Jeske. And he was a navigator, assistant navigator too. And a frogman. You had to have 5 or 6 job descriptions for you to get on that sub. Because they had to stay on the floor of the sea for 6 months without coming up to test it. But I talked to my dad and told him about how fucked up the fiberglass was. He goes, well, fuck, you're the metal artist. Why don't you fucking make one? So that night, I stayed up all night and I drew a detailed blueprint on a piece of blueprint chart paper. And I went to see the woman in charge of the 1708 program. And the secretary didn't want to let me in because she didn't like me. She was kind of nerdy and I didn't like her, so I didn't date her at all. She was after me because I was an artist and a good one. I couldn't stand her. So I said, well, fuck you. And I heard the woman in there and they're having a conference. I walked right in on it. And she kind of got pissed. And I explained what I was about. And she's like, well, let's look at your drawing. And they fucking went nuts over it. So they gave you $500 for doing each artist. I did it for the credit. It was okay with me because it was for a project. And I went to all the other money that it sold for went to charity and fed people. So,
and when was this?
Oh God, it's got to be 15, 20 years ago. You can look it up for 1708 Go Fish Project, 1708 Gallery,
gotcha.
Richmond, Virginia. So they saw my drawing. She's like, no problem. So I went to get my $250 deposit, and the secretary wouldn't give me the check. So the woman heard that, came around, and went in the file and got my check and handed it to me. And told me from then on I could deal with her directly and gave me her phone number, which I fucking dug like a motherfucker. So the governor's school, Maggie Walker High School, was being renovated. And I was good friends with a black guy that was the general contractor. And I went to him and I said, man, I'm going to build this project. And I had my blueprint with me. And he said, come on, man. And he gave me all the sheet metal, which is all this different stuff. If you look at the fish, you notice it has gills. Those are lockers. See it right up behind the eye, those vents.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay. That puts this in perspective of size. Yeah.
Yeah. The tail's separated from the body by a little spacer. That was so if the crew wanted to smoke pot, they could go in the engine room and get away from the rest of the sub.
Wow.
And I dedicated that to my dad and sent him. They did a real nice news article about that.
That's great.
And my dad had it framed and up on his wall. He was amazed too.
Did he know about the secret fin?
No.
That
would have pissed him off. Yeah. I got in a lot of trouble dealing pot when I was a kid. And I got caught growing it in my mom's greenhouse.
Oh, man.
We had 2 Rottweilers, so nobody ever stepped foot in that backyard ever.
Right.
Thor and Cersei. And they were genetically as big as Rottweilers can get. They were fucking grizzly bears.
Wow. All right. We have one question from the chat. Are you ready?
Yes.
What is your favorite memory of the time rolling with Chuck Varga? What's a good Chuck Varga story? Another one, I guess.
Hunter was real fortunate that Chuck was there with him. Chuck was a lot of inspiration, and he was funny as shit. Russell Clem was an Indian, and he wore moccasins, and he was kind of crabby to Chuck. So Chuck nicknamed him Pocahontas, and we'd refer to him as Pocahontas. And I told Lenny and Zip, and Lenny and Zip both told me, don't you ever fucking tell Russell that, motherfucker. And they fucking fell down laughing. Another funny story. This is dairy related. The RPI kids went down to the first floor and stole a bunch of shit furniture and put it in their space upstairs.
What's RPI?
Richmond Polytechnic or Philosophical Institute, the kids club that was there. Bonner met his wife there, Heather. She was part of that group. And Heather became a doctor in sleep technology. And she's all her sisters and her brother, may rest in peace, are genius. Her brother became an Eagle Scout, Darton, and taught himself calculus. He learned it reading books. And when he outfitted, his business was taking government contracts and installing complete software systems for the entire floor of government business. It was amazing. And he was my computer guy. I hooked him up with Zip died of hepatitis C, like I had it, but he didn't listen to the doctor. In the last 6 months of his life, I went to a police auction and got him a $1,500 bike for $250 because I knew the cop, and I was the first one to walk in the auction. And I got him a Moab. And when he died, he gave it to me. Then I sold it to Darton when I had 8 mountain bikes.
Wow.
Otherwise, on Chuck, I really miss not seeing Hunter, and hope if he sees this, hope he's doing well.
He's been on the show.
Yeah, I've seen some of his shows for wrestling and stuff like that.
Oh no, he's been on this show.
Oh, cool! I have to watch it.
Yeah.
I met Andre the
for
Giant
4.5
one
hours.
time.
Really?
Excellent.
Tell me about that. With him?
No. Tally would get movie contracts, and nobody in the shop wanted to make sculptural signs and shit like that. I fucking rocked at it. So the boss, who was an asshole, he wanted the money because it came along with a lot of the work from the studios. And nobody wanted to go down to the movie sets to work, and I did because they catered. And I got to keep all kinds of cool shit too. I got a lot of props. So they did Mommy Market, and I did all the signs, and I'm a wizard at doing them exactly perfect. Like some of the wood carving on some of the letters for some of the different mommies. And I was putting up the neon. I was up on a 12-foot ladder, and all of a sudden I hear this accent voice, and he goes, "Hey man, you do very good work." And I turn around, I'm face to face with Andre the Giant. He's dressed up as a circus weightlifter or something. And he gave me an autographed picture to give to Mr. Rudd, because Mr. Rudd was a wrestling fan big time. He used to go out to California back in the day to see wrestlers. Because then he'd brag about it when he got back to Richmond, because they'd have a wrestling show on. And his friends would say, "Oh, you're full of shit." And then you'd be watching the wrestling, and Mr. Rudd is up there hanging out with the wrestlers. I thought that was cool as shit. And he bought a bunch of property in California. When he died, Eugene Beard was given ownership of 2 garages that Mr. Rudd had. And it was a neon museum in both garages. Brand new stuff, equipment, a lot of glass that was unbent, and the ruby red, bromo blue, noble gold, selenium green. And Eugene, his house up on Church Hill, kids would break his windows. So the guy, the good old boy that ran the plastic room was a friend of mine, but when he was on vacation, I went to Eugene because we had many thousands of pieces of Lexan we never used because the city closed down the Lexan bus shelters. So I got Eugene to measure all the windows in his house on the ground floor, and I spent the night, Saturday night, all Saturday night with a Lenny and Zip, and we cut covers for all Eugene's house. And Eugene's nephew got a bunch of guys together and they installed it. And I did it just to be nice. So when Eugene died, he had me sell the garages, gave me a cut of the money, which was, I made $5,000, and I sold all the neon equipment, and he didn't want any of it.
Nice.
And he got probably about $7,000 himself for the rest of the garages. So
sweet. Did you ever go to the wrestling shows? I know Chuck and Hunter used to go and wear their like Russian shirts and stuff.
Oh no, I've never been to any of those.
No,
I did go to the
would dress
GWAR
up
wrestling shows when Hunter came up with his character, and it was a paper mache head. The redneck from Oregon, Hell, Virginia, spitting image.
Oh wow, we got a specific place there. All right.
Yeah. That was
no. I mean, when they used to go to wrestling shows and like dress for the heel. Not the GWAR shows. I mean,
oh yeah,
go to actual wrestling shows in town.
No, I've never been to any of those.
Okay.
Rudd's been to plenty of them though.
Yeah. And Hunter's, that's like his life, you know.
Yeah, definitely. He does really well with it. So
yeah, he's
hope he doesn't fuck himself up. I know Chuck's having issues physically.
Yeah. I mean, Hunter's had some issues, but he's also like probably in the best shape of his life. It's incredible.
He's always been a roller skater.
Yeah.
He used to go all over Richmond or around VCU with it on his roller skates.
Yeah, definitely.
And he was good at it too. I used to skateboard a lot.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know some of the GWAR guys skateboarded. Humongous Fungus of Urungus says, so glad you got Charlie on here. This is awesome. Thanks for coming on and sharing these stories with the world of bands. That's cool.
Who is that?
The Humongous Fungus of Urungus. He's
cool.
He has his own universe.
Cool.
Love the GWAR cast and Green Jello. Yes, I'll be back in the East Coast doing some Jello shows when they come back around. Hey,
I had some of your videos for a while.
If anyone wants a sticker, Green Jello sticker, let me know.
Cool.
Yes, this is the GWARPod. The GWAR cast was also great, but a different show. We love those guys.
Oh yeah.
All right. So let me close this out with one. I always ask the same question at the end. Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's simple. I just always want one more Dave story for the road.
Well, the Jennifer Hamill was an awesome one.
Yeah, that was great. I love the origin of the songs. Those are mind blowing. Something nobody knows.
I'm trying to think of some adding back and forth. I can always email it to you if I remember.
Oh no, I'm sure you can muster up one more Dave story. Doesn't have to be elaborate.
Smoking weed. Oh man. I remember one time he had there was this performance artist that was a ballerina, and she had gone and fucking rocked Dave's world the night before. So I went to see her, see what she looked like. And fucking Dave looked like a fucking hurt puppy the whole time.
Why?
I think he was bemoaning the fact that, oh my God, I'm never going to see her again. So,
And he never did?
I don't think so.
Oh, why
Yeah.
not? Why was she?
I don't know. I think she went on to do different things, and she was into performance art and stuff like. Gorgeous girl, and she had a ballerina build, smoking fucking hot, like Dave's. Most Dave's Colette. Oh my God! I walked in to use the bathroom in Rocky's space one time. I had to pee really bad. And I reached through the curtains to part them and grab Colette by her tits by mistake.
Whoops.
I didn't mean to do that.
Of course. Yeah. Wow. Well, this has been awesome. I think
One thing I will say about Chuck, anybody would fuck with me, Chuck would lambaste them about it. That's one thing I liked about Mr. Varga. He was a true guy, definitely. And the Chateau of Sin was a classic. It really was.
I'm sure there's some stories. Was there any all right, I'll ask you one more question. Did you hang out with Hunter while he was building his movie props and stuff?
Yeah, I helped him build the one.
Yeah, what did you help build for the can you illuminate us on any of the ideas?
I'll tell you one thing I did. I did the More Bears sign for the video.
Oh yeah?
The artist, I can't remember who it was, had a sketch, and Mike called me in and said, "Hey, Charlie," he said, "can you do this?" I said, "I did it overnight and brought it back the next day."
Oh, for the Skullhead Face movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I did a bunch of the neon where they did the scene where Dave crushes the city, jumps up and down on it, and it's all illuminated with neon. Mostly all the neon survived.
Oh, was that for Alice in Wonderland?
Something like that. I can't remember, but he was fighting either Gorgor or some
that's
beast.
the Alice movie.
And then he jumped up and down and tore up the city. Godzilla was.
Nice.
Because then I went through, because Dave Muscle helped me, and I took back the neon, and Dave was amazed. Muscle was amazed that it survived. I'm real good at doing quality work fast.
Are you for hire in case anyone in the area? Do you want to plug yourself at all? Like
anybody ever needs I'm out of state. I don't drive. If it was
but they could come to you.
built,
you know, a lot of people go through Virginia to go to the Guar Bar or whatever.
I've got a tremendous amount of neon that I can still take and make into sculptures. I'm real good at doing small, intricate pieces. I did one piece that was like a Venus de Milo, and her tits and her pussy are neon.
Incredible. If anyone
it's
wants
like
any
a naked,
lewd,
headless, armless.
some lewd neon signs, this is your guy.
I did Sumi Hayodo. Masumi, Masumi, is a Japanese, heavily tattooed girl that was in the scene. And she was in one of the Lecter movies. It starts out in a fish market, and it's the what's her name? The little blonde woman that played the FBI agent.
Oh, Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. And you see Sumi cleaning fish. I fucking had the hots for her. She's a young girl. Mean. She was a bouncer at CBGB's at one time.
Really?
Yeah. And she was awesome. I really admired her.
Not the fetish model, Masayumi.
What?
Not the fetish model. Was she?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
Okay, there's another heavily tattooed Masayumi who died recently. So.
No. But anyway, I was smitten with her, and she was a waitress at the Village at the time. And she hung around Way Cool Tattoos. I did the neon for Ace, this biker that owned the place. And I draw my own work. And I got hepatitis C right after I got it done.
Yeah,
The
let me
dragon.
full screen you. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I copied it after Greg Irons. Did
All
it
right.
in one sitting at 4.5 hours.
Oof.
I can
Brutal.
take a tremendous amount of pain. I'm not a pain freak.
Yes, I've seen your body.
But I traded Ace. I did some neon work for him, so he did the tattoo. He never colored it, and he died before I could get with him again. And I got Hep C. But I knew Sumi a lot, and one evening, her and the other hot tattoo girls crowd she ran with, I cut through the crowd of them, and I was pretty blasted, and I grabbed her ass. she laughed her ass up. So every once in a while, I used to do that. So I was with Bonner down at Bottoms Up Pizza, and Sumi was working there at that time, doing washing dishes. And I had free reign of the place because I did all their neon. And I did, a lot of times I did it and they pay me later.
Mm-hmm.
And it gave me a free pizza, 2 or 3 pizzas a week. And Bottoms Up is like the king of pizza. And Bonner and I take them down there and feed him and Heather every now and then. But that's why I saw Sumi washing. I said, "Oh, Sumi wash, I saw." And she's like, "Ha ha ha." She turns around and bends over to pick something up, and I grabbed her ass. She fucking turns around, grabs a barbecue fork, one of those monster ones, and stabs me in the leg, and it goes in probably went in about 3/4 of an inch. And I was like, "Oh, baby." I said, "Do it again."
Branded.
And she fucking pulls it out and throws it in the sink. Say, "You goddamn freak. Fuck you." So I walked out of there, and then I screamed when I got outside.
Yeah, I bet.
But
is there a
one
scar?
of the other guys grabs her ass, and she fucking knocked him on the floor. She turns around and sucker punched him. And he's like, "That guy grabbed you." She goes, "Did you see me stab him with the fork?" And I still got a scar.
That's what I wanted to know. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
We won't ask to see that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my God. You got one more? How about one more story and then I gotta get out of here.
Oh, understood.
Yeah. We almost did 3 hours.
I'll tell you one of the funniest Lenny stories, and this is worth hearing.
Okay.
Lenny, back in the day, there was a guy who had food carts in downtown Richmond. Didn't have any money, so Lenny built him 8 food carts with the promise he'd pay him. Guy fucked Lenny. 15 years later, Lenny is at the June Jubilee on Browns Island, and it's got a bridge, old bridge right there that connects the island to the mainland. And he's with Miriam, and Lenny's he can handle himself pretty well when he's sloshed. He's walking around, and he sees the guy, his little girl, and his wife. So he grabs Miriam and gets her face to face. Says, "Miriam, I gotta go talk to this motherfucker. Go home." So Miriam's like, knew something was up. She's like, "Well, okay, I'm going home." She started walking home. Lenny waited till she was at eye shot, walks up to the guy and cusses him like a fucking dog. Walks up to the wife and tells her how sorry he feels that she's married to such a worthless goddamn piece of crap.
Wow.
Then he walks up to the kid and he tells him, you know, you might want to change your name because your dad is a worthless piece of fucking shit. And he went on and he had more time. He said a lot more to her than he did to the kid than he did to them. And he stands up and starts walking home. And he's and there's cops every fucking where. All of a sudden, he hears, Lenny! And this guy's a big son of a bitch, too. He's probably about 280 and tall. Big beard, long hair. And he's charging at Lenny. And Lenny knows a lot. He knows about 3 different martial arts. And Lenny fucking straightens up like that. Guy runs up to him and swings at him. Lenny ducks, grabs him by the mustache and beard and by the belt, and uses his motion and stands him up in the air.
Jeez.
And walks over to the canal, but there's a sandbar, and he had to stumble from it. But then he perfectly walks over about 5 more feet and throws him in the canal, and it was liquid mud.
Oh.
And the guy disappeared. And Lenny's waited long enough until the mud man appeared out of the ground. And every fucking cop ran to the bridge to look over. And Lenny took off like a gazelle, as drunk as he was. Ran to Oregon Hill where they got a gazebo on the edge of the hill, right at the river. And he ran up in there and laid down on the sweating like a son of a bitch, almost having a heart attack, fucking gasping for breath. So I get back to the dairy because I didn't go to the June Jubilee, and Russell is hyperventilating, and he's Chuck, come here, mother. And he's got a huge joint. And every time Lenny did something crazy, Russell would show up with a joint and get me, and we'd smoke that joint, and he'd tell me the story. And Lenny never heard anything about it either, ever.
Wow.
So
Neon Charlie with the space weed. He's the fucking watcher.
Yeah, man.
And I'm gonna call you the king of the dairy. That's
cool.
something I just made up right now.
I was the last person to be in the dairy because Pete Malik and I were living there.
So you were like the first and the last?
Yep.
Basically, wow. This is the king of the dairy right here, Mr. Neon Charlie.
We even dismantled all the locks in the dairy before they came in to renovate. And I gave him back all the keys. Lenny's still got those in his shop somewhere, I'm sure.
Wow. And yeah, I got to visit that place someday.
One time, the Jefferson Hotel, which was catacombs of treasure, auctioned off the whole hotel. And Lenny and us were part of the group. Because I broke in there I snuck in there one time and
allegedly
went to catacombs and found out where cool shit was. Because Lenny had me go in there and follow the auctioneer and bid on the cool hidden shit. And he gave me $3,000 because he sold a bunch of the treasure. What it was door handles with Thomas Jefferson Davis's face cast into them off the original hotel. And there were a couple of those that people sold and made money off of, and there was a lot of killer shit. There was a bunch of sterling silverware sets that were kind of hidden underneath these crates, and Lenny bought the whole stack of crates because I dove under there and I packed them up, and I had zipper bags to put on them because I knew how big they were. And we fucking took those home with us at the first auction. That was cool as shit.
Who named you Neon Charlie?
Marilee's boyfriend, because nobody could remember Jeske. Mike Adams. And Mike was walking wallpaper. He was tattooed by Ed Hardy of California. Wow. I know a lot of, I knew Lyle Tuttle, the guy with the Neon Museum. We were good friends. And I knew a lot of really old school tattoo guys because I renovated a neon sign from DC that was double-sided that had tattoo studio. I took the neon and put it on new cabinets.
Nice.
Then the metal sign that was kind of old and rusted, I cut it up in little squares and I framed them and I sold them as a chunk of Ed Hardy's neon sign. I sold all of those. They sold like hotcakes.
Yeah,
I took them to the largest tattoo convention Philadelphia has ever seen. I was the door Nazi for that. I had a crew cut, turtleneck, pair of German combat pants, and a pair of combat boots. And the bikers said, "God damn it, that is a Nazi motherfucker." But one guy,
don't do it.
One guy, the whole time was this guy with a fro. He lost part of his fro because he tried to run past me for free. He was a little skateboarder, and I got him by his head, and I kneed him in the guts because he tried to kick me in the balls. And one of the bikers that was there gave me a buck knife, and I grabbed his head and cut a big chunk of it out.
Oh man!
And he went up to the cops, and the cops said, "Well, no, man, he's just marking you, so we'd recognize you next time you come in here." And I was real friendly with 3 police precincts. There had been a shooting at the last tattoo convention in New York that year, early 2000s. And I knew everybody. There was a really famous style of tattoo machine. Only 12 of them exist in the world. And the fellas had me photograph them for that. They had me do the photographs for it. And I did all the neon that was hanging up too.
Of course. Who else but Neon Charlie?
You bet, man.
Well, dude, maybe we'll do this again. I know you got so many more stories. We've done 3 hours. Can you believe it?
Excellent. I'm all about it, man. I'm glad. You're a good dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and
I'm impressed.
Next time you got to have the suit out, though. You got to find the suit.
I've got to go dig it out.
Yes, we've got to see
that's
the
understandable. Suit. That's one thing I always saved was that Weldon helmet. I couldn't get rid of it.
Well, this is the crowd for it.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
We appreciate the nuggets, the golden nuggets of GWAR history.
I know a lot about neon, too.
I know. You're Neon Charlie.
There are politicians here in town. One of them who is a senator or something now, or a congressman. I'm not mentioning his name. I'll allude to it. His family had a funeral business, and he had a weird brother that anytime a young girl came in to be embalmed, he would take care of it that night. But he was sexually molesting the cadavers, and he got
Jesus, Charlie.
Then he opened a interior decorating service because somewhere I've got a telephone book from back in the day that has that in his place in there.
My goodness.
Anytime somebody would praise the politician, I'd mention that. It's like, you need to shut up, motherfucker. It's like, oh, fuck you with that hidden shit of Richmond. Look, I know all kinds of dirt on Richmonders. But that's their business.
Got the dirt. No, I'm not asking for it. I'm saying you have it.
My dad said, or a friend of mine in the pen wrote a thesis. He said, we are mirrors, and what is reflected in us comes back through our personal lens. And the better you want your lens is how you deal with stuff like that.
Well, that is a deep thought.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to land on that
Yeah.
deep thought. We can't top that. Oh no, you went sideways. Well, dude, let's keep in touch. Thank you for doing this. And I don't have any shows booked right now, but you guys know I'm always got something up my sleeve. I think we might have lost him. I don't know what happened to Charlie, but you know where to find me. Follow the Instagram, and you'll see when the next show is happening. I got some things in the works always. So thank you for coming. And don't forget, you want to support me. I got a few of these left. Hand-drawn covers of my album, The Final Boss, and new music in the works. Also, The Life and Slimes of Dookie Flyswatter and Haunted Garage is deep in production editing stages. Don't forget, like this shit, subscribe to this shit, comment, help me feed the algorithm. And I'll see you next time. Actually, maybe I'll see some of you on Friday, I think, the 7th. Don't quote me on it, but I'll be there in Connecticut with my camera at the GWAR show. And Squid Pisser, by the way. Squid Pisser and the X-Cops. What a fucking show. I am excited. I just hyped myself up. Okay. Bye.
Like, share, subscribe, comment below.